Hokage, I can only use Xianju, Chapter 161-180. Chapter 161-Death of Fengyao. He is absolutely beautiful. He is not in the mood to think about how Fengyao knew, but must find a way to make Madara not doubt himself. Madara glanced at Highway, and Samsara's eyes flickered slightly, not knowing what he was thinking. If anyone said that to herself, Madara would definitely kill him without saying a word. But Fengyao gave him too many surprises. He even knew about the battle between himself and Zhujian, and he said that Heiju is the identity of consciousness created by Yin and Yang. Now Fengyao is already a prisoner under his own ranks. It's okay to listen to what he has to say, if you don't kill him directly at your own will. Madara directly grabbed Fengyao's neck with one hand. He asked, Otsutsuki Kagaya is the princess who stole the divine tree. What evidence do you have for saying this? Do you think I would easily kill Heiju just because of your words? Said to increase the strength in his hands, Fengyao's breathing began to be difficult, but his eyes were still firm. Heiju was even more humble next to him. Sir Ban, this Fengyao is framing me. He is scheming, insidious and cunning. You must not be fooled by this traitor, and... Bantu didn't look back and said plainly, I have my own judgment. You don't need to remind me, just stand aside. There was already a hint of warning in his tone. It seemed that if something was wrong with Heiju, he would be the one who would die next moment. Heiju, who was interrupted, dared not speak his anger. He did not have the strength to fight against Madara, so he could only curse inwardly. Damn Madara, you even started to doubt me just because of one sentence. When you become a 10-tailed Manzuli, start after reading for infinite months, I will use you as a container to resurrect Mother. Quote. While Fengyao was slowly mobilizing chakra, he panted and said, cough cough. Madara, you use others as chess pieces. But you don't know, Heiju also regards you as chess pieces. Infinite Tsukiyomi is not your Uchiha family. The art of bringing eternal peace. At this moment, Heiju was almost ready to escape, but Madara took out the black stick and pierced Fengyao's heart again without a word, and used chakra to restrain Fengyao's cells from healing. Fengyao's eyes widened. He could feel that his vitality began to decline rapidly after he lost his self-healing ability. You. Madara looked into Fengyao's eyes and said coldly, I've heard enough of your nonsense, you little brat. Infinite moon reading is Uchiha's technique to bring eternal peace to the world. As long as this world is completed, there will never be any more disputes. Quote. Heiju breathed a sigh of relief. Fengyao knew too much, but fortunately Madara still didn't trust him in the end. Fengyao's consciousness had already begun to blur. He stretched out his hand tremblingly to grab Madara and said, You are too conceited. Madara, this will eventually lead to your failure. That's a pity, you can't see it anymore. Madara said in a low voice, increasing the strength in her hands. Fengyao's body gradually began to stiffen, and finally her head tilted to death in Madara's hands. It is reasonable that Madara can't trust Fengyao. Infinite moon reading is the path he has pursued throughout his life, and it is his way of forbearance. Walking on his own path makes Madara feel so real. But suddenly someone comes out to deny all this, telling you that what you have been pursuing in your life is just a lie, then people's first reaction is to resist. Madara is not stupid, he is just willing to believe what he thinks is right. If he himself rejects this plan, then what is the point of his efforts and resurrection now? At this time, Obito also rushed back with the fainted Gaara. Seeing Fengyao who is dead, he is even more afraid of Ban, but he and Ban have the same interests now, so they are not afraid that the other party will hurt him now. Thump. Gaara's body was thrown to the ground. Madara nodded in satisfaction and said, Very well, now I'll start the tail pulling first. After he finished speaking, he first dug out Fengyao's left eye, and now he still needs one eye to replace it before the other reincarnation eye comes. After stuffing the eyeball into his own eye, Madara regained the light completely, and then said in surprise, I didn't expect that there are many different pupil techniques in this eye, especially it has a rare fit with me, really nice eyes. The more Madara explored, the more satisfied he became. He pointed at Heiju, put away the corpse of this Fengyao brat first. There are still many secrets on his body worth exploring. I'm going to start extracting the tailed beast. Xianju bowed and said flatteringly, "Don't worry, Mr. Ban, I will do it for you." He must do everything right now. Although Madara didn't say anything, he might have already begun to guard against himself. Xianju picked up Feng Yao's corpse and slowly dived into the ground. Madara once again channeled the outer Dao Golem. It seems to sense the existence of a tail, and the outsider golem is a little crazy, opening its big mouth and roaring. Ow! Golem lock. A huge purple chain spewed out of the outsider golem's mouth, and the lock was made up of a dragon head. It bit Gaara's body, and even if she fainted, this feeling still made Gaara's body tremble. Then, as the chain was pulled, Shukaku was pulled out of Gaara's body, and it grabbed the chain and tried to struggle. Banana snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "Do you want to break free with you beasts? Come here." After speaking, he increased his control over the golem, and Shuhei suddenly couldn't control his body and flew towards the golem. After absorbing one tail, the golem's eyes slowly opened one. Madara threw Gaara aside, then turned around and asked, "Obito, do you know about the other tailed beasts?" Obito said, 2 tails and 8 tails are in Union Village, 5 tails are in Yenian Village, and 9 tails are in Konoha Village, but now the 5 countries have implemented a peace treaty and are encircling and suppressing our Hexian organization. Peace treaty, Banana sneered, then sarcastically, "It's just a paper treaty between countries, it's not peace at all, they are not worth mentioning, the immortal organization must be this kid's organization, as long as there is no people of equal strength to him can't stop us." Obito was silent, and the problem that gave him an incomparable headache was easily solved here. Madara then ordered, "Take me to Union Village first, with your right eye, I will bring Erway and Yaoi under my command." "No problem." Obito stood behind Madara, and the space vortex unfolded from his right eye, absorbing Madara and Obito. After the two left, everything was calm, but the earth here was devastated. The huge sky pits, forests, meteorites, and broken wood showed how tragic a battle had been waged in this place. Chapter 162 _ split into 2. Isn't it too long? According to reason, Lord Fengyao should be back. Will something happen? The people from the Immortal Organization sat at a table and discussed worriedly. Without Fengyao, the Immortal Organization lost its backbone, and everyone's will was a little depressed. Orochimaru comforted. "Don't worry, Yaojun's strength is rare in the entire ninja world, and even that Uchiha Madara may not be able to defeat Yaojun." "Is what you said true? Orochimaru-sama?" Taiyu also asked anxiously. From the very beginning, she had been feeling uneasy in her heart, as if something was about to happen. After being asked this way, Orochimaru was not sure. After all, he didn't know what Madara's strength was. Can only bite the bullet and say, "Yes, don't worry, nothing will happen." Hearing what Orochimaru said, everyone seemed to feel a lot more at ease. At this time, the slug climbed onto the table, and it was obviously very flustered at the moment. "No, it's not good. My clone told me that Union Village was attacked, and the person who attacked was Madara Uchiha, and Fengyao him." Speaking of the back, the voice of the little slug was already crying. This news suddenly hit the small room like a bolt from the blue. No, it must be fake. Master Orochimaru, Master Fengyao won't die, right? Tayuya's words revealed deep sadness, and tears had already soaked her eye sockets. At this moment, Orochimaru also looked ugly. He couldn't believe that the man who changed him died like this. Seeing that Orochimaru didn't answer, Duoyu also felt that the world in front of her was darkening. She could no longer restrain her inner sadness. She knelt on the ground, and began to cry. Shangrin and the others also had tears in their eyes. They felt that if it wasn't for their lack of strength, then maybe they could help Fengyao in that battle. There was a desolate cry in the hall. Boom! A loud noise caused everyone to stop crying, and their eyes were attracted. At first glance, Shueyu smashed the shark muscle on the table. He stepped on the stool and scolded angrily. Damn, what's the use of crying here? No matter what, the revenge of the boss Feng Yao has to be avenged. It just so happens that the bastard is in Union Village, and we will kill him directly in the past. To avenge Feng Yao boss. The atmosphere in the scene suddenly changed, and there was more hatred and anger in the eyes of everyone. Xianju is right, not only Master Feng Yao, but also Gaara's revenge must be avenged. Everything he did to Lord Feng Yao, we must repay it double. We have to act as soon as possible. After all, Hideyoshi is in Union Village, and it will take a certain amount of time for us to get there. Just when everyone put away their tears and was ready to start action, Orochimaru interrupted everyone with a word. No, we should go to Union Village now, because Yaojun is not dead yet. As soon as these words came out, Tayuya immediately grabbed Orochimaru's clothes, like grabbing a life-saving straw. She trembled and said, Really? Is Lord Feng Yao really not dead? Everyone is also waiting for Orochimaru's answer. Orochimaru sighed and continued. It can be said that this matter was originally a top secret. Yaojun actually has an avatar. This avatar is different from ordinary. He has Yaojun's soul and thoughts, including all memories. It can be said to be the second Yaojun. We should meet him first. Orochimaru's remarks made many people's eyes flash. Junmalu thought for a while and suggested, if this is the case, then we should divide our troops into two groups. One will join up with Master Feng Yao, and the other will be it is to help Union Village. Quote. In addition to Hideyoshi, Union Village, of course, has a pocket there, and their team stayed at Union Village according to Feng Yao's order. This time it happened to be Do, and the slug in Do passed the information back. Orochimaru nodded and continued. It's a long way to Union Village, so let Sai go. He can draw birds and beasts, and the speed will be faster. Sakai, who was sitting next to him, nodded slightly after listening to it. He was in charge of handing over to Tsunade in the Country of Fire before, and then this task was handed over to Itachi and the others, and he himself came back directly. I'm going with me too. I want to know if Lord Feng Yao is still alive. Duoyu also has a firm gaze. This is something she must confirm. Orochimaru sighed and said, Okay, you and Sai will go to Union Village together. You must act carefully, and everyone else will go to Union Village with me to help. Although many people also wanted to go to Iweian Village with them, revenge for Feng Yao and saving Hideyoshi were also important matters, so everyone acquiesced to this arrangement. After a while, several figures fell from the sky. A black eagle carried the two of them and flew to the northwest, while the others headed north. At this moment, Union Village is scorched. Madara was covered with Suzuo, and he started a killing spree in Union Village, and many Shinjin had died in his hands. Hideyoshi had some black marks on his body, and his chest was still bleeding, presumably from the damage he suffered in the battle just now. Madara was a bit dull at the moment, having just had a fierce battle with Feng Yao, which made him have no interest in this kind of battle that could not be called resistance at all. Are you the current Raikage of Union Village? You are the only one who bears the title of Shadow. Where is the strength of the 2 tails and the 8 tails? Hurry up and hand them over. Hideyoshi vomited blood and scolded. You're beautiful, it's impossible to give away and Yahweh to you. Also, where did you get the eye on your left eye? After following Feng Yao for so long, Hideyoshi naturally didn't even recognize Feng Yao's eyes. He felt unbelievable at first, but after witnessing Madara's terrifying strength, his heart was shaken. Van touched Feng Yao's left eye, and said with a chuckle, I got a trophy from a good opponent, don't you know him? Hideyoshi's eyes became even colder. He clenched his fists and stared at Madara in front of him, and said word by word, I don't know. But I'm going to kill you. After finishing speaking, chakra possessed the body, and his body rushed over. 6 types of profound truth, heavy flow 6 King's Spear. A shock wave formed by a thunderbolt attacked like a spot. It's a little more decent than your previous attack, but unfortunately, it's still too weak. Madara's Susanoo crossed his fists, directly blocking the incoming shock wave, then flipped his hand and slashed out a sword, sending Hideyoshi flying out. Lord Raikage. Go and heal Raikage-sama, let's stop this guy. Many ninjas from Union Village rushed to Madara again, and greeted Madara with all kinds of thunder escape ninjutsu in their hands. The mere gravel is not half as good as me, so let you all feel the pupil technique I have newly mastered. Madara smiled cruelly. Then the left eye flickered slightly, and countless black flames appeared in front of him and swallowed all the ninjas from Union Village. Chapter 163_transcribe the seal. Madara uses the Amaterasu in Feng Yao's left eye, which is the Hitomi technique in Sasuke's left eye. The ninjas in Union Village immediately lay on the ground and kept rolling, hoping to put out the black flames. Damn, what kind of fire is this? Why can't it be put out by water? Help, step back. With one blow, all the attacking Union Village ninjas were burned to ashes by the black flames. Madara touched his left eye and praised, "Not bad pupil technique, this eye is more useful than I thought." Just as he was about to make his next move, a black-tailed beast jade flew towards him, and the power condensed in it could easily destroy a mountain. Banana chuckled and said, "Are you finally willing to show up? It seems that the people of Union Village have mastered the power of the tailed beast." Just as the tailed beast jade was about to hit Madara's body, Madara stretched out her left hand, and a white transparent shield appeared beside her. Sealing imprint. The super-dense chakra of the tailed beast jade was gradually absorbed, and this blow was easily blocked by Madara. Kurabi appeared in front of Madara's eyes. He was now in a state of half-tailed beast, and his body was covered with dark red tailed beast chakra. That is, the tailed beast coat, and the elbows had tailed beast-like bones. He waved his arm and hit Madara's Susanoo. Thunder Plow Hot Knife. The power of this blow is much stronger than that used by Raikage, and it was used with the blessing of the tail beast coat. Madara's Susanoo had a few more cracks. Chirabi was secretly shocked and shouted, "This thing is too hard, I am afraid that even if the tailed beast jade hits, it may not be able to break. Bagaya road bastard Kongnuo Yalu idiot." Madara saw that Kurabi was talking wildly, her face sank and she decided to teach the other party a good lesson. She stepped back, and then her hands were sealed again. Outlaw Golem. Roar. The huge golem was summoned again, roaring and staring at the people in front of him. Yahweh immediately reminded in his heart, "Be careful. Kurabi, this guy, the thing he summoned can absorb me. Then you will be finished. Don't get close, keep your distance from him." It was the first time Chirabi heard Yao being so cautious. He nodded silently, and then stepped back. Madara snorted coldly, "You still want to leave now? You must have underestimated me, Uchiha Madara. Leave Yahweh for me." After speaking, he used the golem lock again to try to bind Kurabi, but the other party was slippery like a loach. Kurabi was thinking about his strategy while fleeing, and at this moment, he was suddenly punched by something. Boom! Kurabi flew upside down, followed by the flying golem lock. The shadow of the Tomb of the Wheel is too easy to deal with people who do not have the power of the 6 realms and the Eye of Reincarnation. Not good, Eight Tails exclaimed inwardly. Just when Kurabi thought he was going to die, the teak man rushed over in a tailed beast coat. Dodge the golem lock with Kurabi. The two of them landed on the rocky mountain next to them, and before they could rest, Madara came to them in an instant. "Very well, Orway has arrived now. Absorb you first, and then bring Yahweh back." Kurabi and the teak man looked at Madara with a heavy heart. Today's situation is probably several times worse than the original beast attack. And now, in the far, dark underground, Feng Yao's body is being placed on a stone platform at the moment, and the black stick on his body has not been taken out. There are still a few Baiju standing scattered next to them, and they are responsible for guarding the house here. Feng Yao, who should have been dead for a long time, suddenly opened his only right eye at this moment. Activate the ultimate forbidden technique of the Uchiha family, Izanagi. During the period when Madara was caught, Feng Yao kept buying time, just to use the transcription seal to plant Izanagi in his right eye. He knew Madara might poach his left eye to replace it, so he put it on his right eye. Transcription seal is a special pupil technique that can seal a specific pupil power into the eyes of oneself or others provided that there is a writing wheel eye. It can be activated by itself after a period of time or after reaching the conditions set by the caster. In the original book, after Itachi and Sasuke died in a decisive battle, they also used this technique to enter Amaterasu to sneak attack Obito. In the Battle of End Valley, Madara also used this technique to plant Izanagi, and successfully resurrected. Feng Yao rewrote the reality of his being killed and came back to life again. He coughed a few times and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood stasis. The surrounding Baiju was startled, and the people who had been dead for a long time were miraculously resurrected. Feng Yao took a few breaths, then grabbed the black stick inserted into his heart, took it out, and the blood splashed on the stone platform. The surrounding Baiju realized the seriousness of the matter and flew over immediately. Stop him. Let's go together, don't let him run away. Go and inform Madame Madara that Feng Yao has resurrected. Feng Yao snorted coldly and stood up. He was covered in black sticks now, and every time he moved a finger, he would suffer great pain. But if you don't fight at the moment, you're really dead. He clenched the black stick tightly, dodged directly, avoiding Baiju's fist, and then pierced Baiju's head from bottom to top. For every Baiju, he fought with his life, chopping, stabbing, biting, and even directly hugging a Baiju. Punched out more than a dozen holes in the opponent's entire body. In the end, he sat weakly on the ground and looked at Baiju, who took a long time to solve it. Feng Yao couldn't help but smile bitterly. I didn't expect that one day, I would be so embarrassed. Since I was hunted down by those Konoha Anbu, I haven't had it again. The failure of the battle this time was due to Feng Yao's overconfidence. The improvement of his strength and his constant victories made him feel that he could defeat Madara, and he could have escaped earlier. Feng Yao endured the pain and took out all the more than a dozen black sticks on his body, as if he had unloaded a few 100 kilograms of burden. It was extremely relaxed. Chakra began to recover quickly. The wound on his body was emitting white smoke, and the cells between the columns were healing Feng Yao's broken body. The sound of the system came for the first time. Host, you almost died at Madara's hands. Feng Yao was silent for a moment. I know, this time I was too careless. I'm afraid Gaara is also more fortunate, and my left eye is also. He touched his empty left eye, which had been taken away by Madara. Feng Yao only rewrote the reality of his being killed, but did not change the reality that his left eye was taken away. Those eyes have pupils such as Shinwei, Amaterasu, Yudu, and Byakuyanshin, which can be said to be very important. This will undoubtedly greatly increase the strength of the spot. Host, have you forgotten? After half a day, it will be time to replace your ninjutsu. At that time, all the abilities of your left eye will be sealed by this system. As soon as these words came out, Feng Yao was stunned for a moment. Yeah. He was in a hurry to destroy Akatsuki because the use of the pupil technique was approaching the time limit. As long as the system extracts ninjutsu that has nothing to do with tongjutsu, then Feng Yao's left eye will be no different from ordinary people's eyes, and at best it will look good. Chapter 164-Black Fury. After being convinced of this, Feng Yao felt a lot more at ease, but there are still some things that must be done before he can change his ninjutsu. For example, resurrect Gaara, and use space ninjutsu to return to the floating city. After recovering some of the chakra, Feng Yao walked out of the cave and returned to the previous battlefield as soon as possible. There is no difference from before, the gravel ruins all over the ground and the flames that have not been extinguished or burning, and Feng Yao is searching for something. Finally, Feng Yao found Gaara, who had lost his life in a rubble. After being extracted from the tailed beast, Ren Zuli is of course certain to die. Feng Yao sighed and then muttered to himself. Sorry, Gaara, this will bring you back to life. Feng Yao made a seal with the word, Ji, in both hands, which lasted for a few seconds, and a green light emerged from his body. Since Gaara's death time was very short, it didn't cost too much chakra. It didn't take long for a virtual body to emerge from the green light, and Gaara's soul was recalled back to the present world and reinvested in his body. Outer Dao Reincarnation Natural Technique. After the green light began to fade away, Gaara trembled slightly, opened his eyes and woke up. Feng Yao breathed a sigh of relief and sat on the ground tiredly. His chakra has not fully recovered, and he still needs to rest for a while. Gaara propped his forehead, he just needs to get used to it after being resurrected. He touched his body and wondered, didn't I get caught? Lord Feng Yao, you are here, did you save me? Gaara, who was still a little puzzled at first, saw Feng Yao, and his heart was settled, which meant that the battle was over. He had always cared about Feng Yao's safety before, and he was caught by Obito before he went too far. He didn't remember what happened after that, and now he thought it was Feng Yao who defeated Ban and saved him. Feng Yao sighed and said, this is where we fought Madara before. You were caught and pulled away from the tailed beast and lost your life, so I used samsara to bring you back to life again. Gaara hurriedly checked his body and found that Yue was indeed not in his body, which made him happy but also a little melancholy. After all, the tailed beast has stayed in his body for several years, and it is inevitable that he will feel uncomfortable for a moment. That's right, it's okay if you don't have it. Some people who save this way are always thinking about this kind of power. Lord Feng Yao didn't expect that you can even master the resurrection ninjutsu. Gaara smiled casually, the end of the matter is not tangled. Feng Yao patted Gaara's shoulder. This time I didn't think much about it, why don't we revive you? We should have won a big victory. I didn't expect Madara to be resurrected at this time, which led to our this time. Action failed. Gaara shook his head hurriedly. No, we didn't help much. This is not the time to talk about this, let's leave as soon as possible. I think Madara must be collecting tailed beasts around now, let's go back to the floating city first. After finishing speaking, Feng Yao opened, Yellow Spring Hirazaka. Left this place with Gaara. A minute later, Heiju's figure emerged from here, his face was ugly, and the anger in his chest seemed to burn himself. He had just placed and imprisoned the tailed orc Zuli that he had captured before. When he came back, he saw Baiju's corpse all over the ground, and Feng Yao also disappeared. He hurriedly looked around, but he found it. Damn, I didn't expect Feng Yao to come back to life, is it Izanagi who I depended on? It's so damned, I knew I should chop up his body into dozens of pieces and burn it, now let him go, bastard. Yao. Heiju is so angry, or because Feng Yao knew his identity, Heiju painstakingly worked on a plan for 1,000 years. If Feng Yao's achievements fall short, then he really wants to cry without crying. But now it was too late to regret, Heiju could only curse a few times again, then merged into the ground and waited for Madara to come back. Union Village. Madara was unscathed, one foot stepped on Kurabi's body, and the teak man was standing in the air, pulling his tail away. Surrounded by countless ninjas from Union Village who suffered heavy casualties, Hideyoshi was cut in half by Madara's sword, and his life was in critical condition. But Dusha's condition was not good, and there were multiple burns and fractures on his body. Several shadows of the reincarnation of the dirty soil were directly forcibly dispersed by Madara, and fixed their movements with a black stick. Madara pulled away the tailed beast and asked with interest, "Boy over there, since you know the art of reincarnation, what kind of relationship do you have with Chinsho Tobir, are you from Konoha?" Because Do was acting here, he didn't use his appearance, but disguised his appearance with the fading technique, so Obito didn't recognize Do either, thinking that the other party was here to help. Ahem, I have nothing to do with the second Hokage. My name is Shell, but I have a grudge against Konoha. He rolled his eyes and made up a lie. At this time, he must not offend Madara, otherwise his life will be lost. And looking at the appearance of the spot seems to be a little interested in himself. The outer Dao golem completely absorbed Erway Darren Zuli, the second eye on his forehead slowly opened, and the aura on his body became stronger. The teak man's body fell weakly, and she would soon lose her life after being pulled away from the tailed beast. Hideyoshi seemed to have a lot of disorder when he saw this scene, so he could only increase the chakra again before he took the other side. Hold steady. Have a grudge. It sounds good, but why? Madara asked again. At this moment Madara had some intention of taking Do as a subordinate, and he just took a fancy to the ability to reincarnate in the battle with Do. After all, being able to master the reincarnation of dirty soil is a high-quality fighting force. At this moment, the Akatsuki organization has already existed in name only, and Xiaonan took Nagato back to Yuyan village. Jiaodu and Feijuan, oh no, left the organization together with the head of Feijuan, and did not know where to go. He can only be responsible for collecting information, and Obito is barely able to use it. And if there is a pocket, then all the problems can be solved easily, even better than before. Kuo's tone was suddenly filled with resentment. He said solemnly, Konoha killed my savior in the war, almost killing me. Later, the current Raikage rescued me. For revenge, I sneaked into Konoha. He stole this filthy reincarnation technique, hoping to take revenge on them. Quote. Do also deserves to be a man who was a spy, and he made up a perfect story in one fell swoop. Banana smiled grimly when he saw Do's appearance. Yes, it's a chess piece that can be used all at once, and can also use the art of reincarnation from the dirty earth, so I can use him to reincarnate in the dirty earth and increase my strength. Madara walked over, and there was a hint of bewitchment in her enticing voice. You will not get liberated by doing this. Revenge is not by this means. Come on, follow me. I will lead you to create a real ideal world. There, everything you have will be satisfied. Quote. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at Madara's outstretched right hand with a slightly struggling expression, as if a fierce battle was going on inside. Chapter 165 _ You are not dead. And he gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I'll follow you, but you have to let the current Raikage go. He's kind to me, I can't ignore him. This is the best choice right now. If he fights to the death, then he and Hideyoshi will definitely die. Now not only can they live, but they can also be placed by Madara's side, reporting each other's actions at any time. Van smiled and said, I don't care about a Raikage yet. Killing him or not has no effect. I promise you. Hearing this, Tu was also relieved, and then took Hideyoshi's lower body and used medical ninjutsu to help him connect it to ensure that the other party would not die due to excessive bleeding. Madara also swept the battlefield. Obito sucked Kurabi into the Kamui space, and Urwei and Yaoi had already got them all. Tuichi patted Hideyoshi's big hand heavily and said goodbye to the other party, and then prepared to leave here with Madara using Kamui. Madara turned her head and said, I want you to help me reincarnate a person from the dirt now. He died not long ago, and he is very powerful. I hope you can control him and use it for me. His body is in my hands. It's not difficult at all. Tu's face sank. He had already exchanged information with Orochimaru and others, and knew that Madara said that the 8 achievements were Fengyao. He secretly decided in his heart that if it is true, then he must find a way to perfectly reproduce Fengyao's peak strength and deal with Madara in a perfect state. Although he thought so in his heart, he continued to respectfully say, Of course, I will help you reincarnate the other party and let him be used by you. The vortex of divine power turned, and the three returned to the place where they once fought. Looking at the Tianqing here, Do still couldn't help taking a deep breath. He couldn't imagine what kind of battle he had to go through to cause it. Tu followed Madara, and together they found the place where Heiju used to put Fengyao's body. At first, I couldn't bear to look at it, but Madara's surprised voice came from her ear, which seemed a little unbelievable. Taking a closer look, in a hole in the stone, there were corpses of Baiju lying around, and most of them were directly stabbed to death by black sticks. Only Fengyao's corpse was not seen. Although Do was full of doubts, he obediently followed behind Madara. Obito looked at Ju's wound and said, It seems that Fengyao's body was taken away by the people of the Immortal Organization. Can this be reincarnated in this way? At this time, the land suddenly changed. Ju's body emerged from the ground, and he said in a hoarse voice, It wasn't that he was taken away, Fengyao used Izanagi to rewrite the reality. I saw him resurrect the end of Renzuli not long ago. Has left. Tu couldn't help cheering when he heard it. He really wanted to tell his comrades the news immediately, but it was definitely impossible now. He was right in front of Madara and couldn't pass the information. Madara stood there for a while, then suddenly burst out laughing. Since Hakuma, this is the first time I have met an opponent that makes me so excited, and dying once can bring me so much fun. Shell, it seems that you don't have to prepare for reincarnation, just wait a moment. Quote. After Madara finished speaking, he ordered Xianju to bring the three-tailed and four-tailed human Zuli over. After he pulled the two-tailed beasts away, he went to Yenian village to capture the five-tailed. Xianju disappeared again, and after coming over, he had brought three-tailed human Zuli and four-tailed human Zuli Laozi. Outlaw Golem. Floating City. When Feng Yao and Gaara returned to the base camp, they didn't see a person from the Immortal Organization. They felt a little strange. They only found out when they grabbed a Yin Ren and asked. All the people have left. Gaara's slug was destroyed in the battle. Feng Yao did not bring it at all, as for the psychic can't rely on. This time Feng Yao had a little headache, and he could guess that 80% of the people in the Immortal Organization were going to avenge him. Gaara suggested, "Don't worry, Lord Feng Yao, it's far from our battlefield. Lord Orochimaru and the others didn't arrive so soon. You can go to the Shitbone Forest, find Lord Slug, and notify everyone to come back." Feng Yao's eyes lit up and said, "You're right, I'll go there right now. You stay here, guard your home, and have a good rest." After talking about it, I opened Wangquan Hirazaka and went straight in. After the scene in front of him, Feng Yao immediately appeared in the Wetbone Forest, and he shouted, "Lord Slug, I'm Feng Yao, I have something to ask you for help." The mountain suddenly trembled, and the slug immortal appeared directly. It was a little surprised. Feng Yao, you are not dead. You scared me to death." Saying that, I will move my body and come to rub Feng Yao, if it is hit by a mountain. Feng Yao quickly moved away and said with a wry smile, "Of course I am not dead, but you guessed it right. I depend on a ninjutsu to live. Let's not talk about this. I want to ask you, Orochimaru, are they avenging me?" Went. Slug nodded again and again. Yes, they all thought you were dead, and Ban attacked Union Village. They divided their troops into two groups, going all the way to Union Village to find Ban's revenge, and all the way to Yenian Village to find your clone. Then it took a few minutes for Feng Yao to know the ins and outs of everything after his death. He thought for a moment and said, "Let Orochimaru and the others come back immediately. When they arrive, Madara has already left. I will handle Hideyoshi's affairs in person, and let them rush back to the floating city, and to Yuya let them go there. I'm guessing that after taking the 2 tails and the 8 tails, the next target is Yenian Village, and let them assist Fengling there." Slug nodded and said, "No problem, I'll let them know." The slug bowed his head slightly and contacted all his little clones, and then all the members received the news immediately. As soon as Orochimaru landed in the Land of Thunder, he suddenly received news from the slug. "What? Boss Feng Yao is not dead, are you sure? Since the slug has said that Lord Feng Yao is by his side, is it still necessary to be sure? You are a pig brain, but it's great that Lord Feng Yao is still alive. Yaojun, I knew that you won't die so easily." Everyone obeys Yaojun's instructions and returns to the floating city. Set and Yuya, who were flying in the sky, also received the news. Duo Yuya's tears couldn't help falling, and she kissed the slug in her hand fiercely. "That's great. Master Feng Yao is fine. Sigh, did you hear that?" Sakai rolled his eyes and said helplessly and happily, "The slug is only half a meter away from me. I'm not deaf yet, but Lord Feng Yao ordered us to continue to Yenian Village to assist his clone. Well, let's go as soon as possible. Since Lord Feng Yao said so, he must have his reasons." So the two continued to Yenian Village. At this moment, Feng Ling was lying on the bed with a pale face, accompanied by Dayemu and Haishu beside the bed. During these days in Yenian Village, Feng Ling was very comprehensive, which greatly satisfied Oyemu. Chapter 166 _ Hidden Rock Village was attacked. Feng Ling not only has an amazing talent for cultivation, but also mastered all of Chen Dun's ninjutsu in a short period of time. He is also good at uniting villagers and helping other members of his team. Often, I take on many thankless tasks in the commission alone, and each of them is completed very well. And respect the teacher and respect the Tao, and come every morning and evening like Onogi to ask questions, or talk about the big and small things of Yenian village. It can be said that Onogi has cultivated Feng Yao as his heir. Netherland, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better? Anamu asked worriedly. Feng Ling coughed dryly and said weakly, "It's all right, thank you for your concern. It's all my fault that I was too impatient to practice ninjutsu, and I made a fork and made my grandfather worried." Anaji's eyes flashed with a hint of heartache, and then turned into softness. He said kindly, "Next time, it can't be like this. You can't rush your ninjutsu practice for a while. You can rest well during this time." Feng Ling nodded, but his heart was very speechless. In fact, the reason why Feng Lingxian is lying on the bed is not because of practicing ninjutsu, but because of one of the small drawbacks of Feng Yao's incarnation technique. When the body dies, the avatar will be severely injured. Feng Yao had indeed died once before, and was killed by Madara. At that time, Feng Ling was following the action of the demolition force in Yenian village. Due to Feng Yao's death, he was severely injured, and his 7 orifices bleed and his breath weakened. This terrified the team leader at the time. The other party, Onogi, actually wanted Feng Ling to go in and have more experience and accumulate contacts and qualifications. In the future, I can better inherit the mantle of Tsuchikage. If something happens to me, I can't afford it. So he hurriedly sent Feng Ling back, and there was this scene in front of him. The main body has also sent someone to find me, Artuyuya and Sai. I hope the main body can come as soon as possible. Feng Ling's eyes were a little worried. He is the incarnation of Feng Yao, of course he knows what is happening now. Madara may come to Iwayan village at any time, and Feng Yao is now preparing to replace the ninjutsu. While Feng Ling was still thinking, a mutation suddenly occurred. Boom! A loud noise spread throughout the entire Yenian village. There was a smell of burning flesh and blood in the air, and Onogi and Kuro Soil immediately stood up and flew out, leaving a sentence at the same time. Netherland, you have a good rest here, don't come out. Feng Ling's eyes flashed, and he thought to himself, it's coming so fast, the main body must come over as soon as possible. Above Yenian village, the outsider golem opened its 4 big eyes and roared downwards. Ow! Madara Uchiha, Obito, and 2 all stood on the head of the golem, and Madara again spit out several dragon head-shaped flames toward the Iwayan village below. Condescending, the scene suddenly became chaotic, and many ninjas rushed over to kill Madara who released ninjutsu. Soil escape, mountain soil technique. Earth escape, earthquake core. 2 done earth stone dragon. The ninjutsu of Iwayan village is good at using the terrain. The ground movement core caused the ground to sag suddenly, and the golem was unstable and fell into the ground. Then 2 huge hemispheres clamped the golem bag, making it inactive. Jiwei let out a roar, barely spreading his hands to block the ninjutsu. Even the giant creatures of the tailed beast level have a way to suppress it, and it is the highest level of action blocking art. It can also be used as a means of attack. If the opponent's strength is not enough, then the person caught by the mountain will eventually be crushed by the pressure. The last earth dragon bit towards Madara Uchiha and the others who were standing overhead. Iwa Hidden Village's cooperation is still in the past. It's not a pity, it's still too weak. Maiden said expressionlessly. Then he took out the fan, stretched out his hand to block it, and Tulong's body was gradually absorbed by the fan. The fan flashed a silvery white light, and Madara transformed the attack into a wind-type chakra. Madara gripped the fan, and one jumped off the golem, a majestic voice resounding in the sky. Let you see true power, tremble, ants. Then a fire escaped in his hand, and his mouth bulged high. Fire escape, fire extinguishing. Madara spewed out a large flame like seawater toward the front, and the range was very large. In the Fourth Ninja World War, this technique required more than 20 Kurigakushi allied forces to use the water wall at the same time to block it. But this was not over yet. Madara waved the fan in his hand and poured the wind attribute chakra into it. Fire escape whirlwind of fire. The wind helped increase the fire, and it directly evolved into 4 giant flame tornadoes. The flames were compressed in the hurricane, tearing the ground wherever they went, and the flames shot into the sky. The earth ninjas along the way could not resist this kind of ninjutsu at all, and they all dodged, but no one could resist. Seeing that the flame tornado is about to sweep into the shadow hall, an old voice came from the sky. Dust escape, the art of peeling the realm. A transparent cone barrier appeared in Onogi's hand, and then pushed it towards the place where the flame tornado was located. Boom! The flame tornado, together with the gravel houses on the ground, turned into dust and ceased to exist. That's great, Lord Toying has taken action. It's finally here, Lord Toying, you have to be careful, the opponent's strength should not be underestimated. Miss Black Earth is also here, so I should be able to repel the attacker now. Seeing the arrival of Tu Ying, the momentum in everyone's hearts increased greatly. After all, they were helpless when the opponent beat him with a single ninjutsu. It was too embarrassing. Onogi appeased the ninjas in Yenian village, and when he was about to see who was daring to attack Yenian village, his pupils shrank suddenly. The man on the opposite side, he will never forget in his life, when he was young, he sought Konoha diplomacy with the second generation of Hokage. As a result, Madara Uchiha directly indiscriminately beat the two of them into serious injuries, which was deeply remembered in his mind. Anamu's body unconsciously took 2 steps back and said in awe, This is impossible, after so long, how come you are still alive, and even look so young? The black soil on the side has never seen the always stubborn old man show such an expression, and when he is more curious about the identity of the other party, he is also more cautious. Madara rarely showed a hint of expression, and he said plainly, It's Onogi, I didn't expect you to grow into a Tsuchikage. I was resurrected using ninjutsu. Since you recognized me, I saved a lot of trouble. Hand over the power of the 5 tails. Anamu knew the intention of the other party as soon as he heard it, and he said with an ugly face, Don't even think about it. People who are dead should not come out and do anything wrong. Said that a transparent white barrier appeared again in his hands. Just when the battle was in full swing. On a rocky mountain not far from Yenian village, a door of space slowly opened. Feng Yao came out of it. He received the news of the incarnation, and decided to replace the ninjutsu here, otherwise he would lose the space ninjutsu, and Feng Yao would have to travel a long time to come to Yenian village, and Feng Yao took a deep breath. Sit cross-legged. Chapter 167-Confused Grandpa. If you can take this opportunity to use Madara to get rid of Onogi, it's just good news for me. Feng Yao's eyes flashed coldly. The incarnation has a certain foundation in Yenian village, and he is the rightful heir of Onogi's dust escape. If Onogi dies, Fengling must succeed Toying. As for now, Feng Yao only needs to sit on the mountain and watch the tiger fight. The sound of the system machinery entered Feng Yao's mind. The host's half-year time limit has expired, and all pupil techniques will be sealed at this moment. Please prepare the host, and new ninjutsu will be drawn later. Feng Yao's spirit was shocked, and a force of imprisonment sealed all Feng Yao's pupil skills. Of course, it also includes all the pupil art in the left eye that Madara took away. On the battlefield, Onogi looked dignified at the moment. Banana was stronger than he thought, and even Chendun couldn't do anything about him. So preparing to change the soil to attack, Oyemu's hands formed a seal, the ground suddenly trembled, and a rock giant rose from the ground. Tundun Gangli style technique. This technique can create a huge humanoid rock monster, which can be attacked and defended. The huge rock monster takes a step and punches at Uchiha Madara. It looks very cumbersome, but the offensive is extremely fierce, and the surrounding people unconsciously take a few steps back. Madara sneered, and then the faint blue pupil on the left began to flash. It's really a giant, just let me experiment with the pupil technique of this left eye. Madara's tone was flat, and then the space where the left eye focused began to melt, and the head of the rock monster was distorted and absorbed by the divine power. Onogi stood on the head of the stone monster, and was also within the suction range of Shinwei. No, you have to leave. Oyemu secretly thought in his heart, just as he was about to escape from the rock monster and fly away. Click. Onamu's body suddenly froze, and there was a sharp pain in his waist. After all, he was already old, and he just flashed to his waist in a hurry. When Madara saw this scene, a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. It seems that you are old, Oyegi, you should have no regrets living at this age. Let me send you to see the previous generation of soil shadows. After talking about the rapid rotation of Shinwei's space, he was ready to directly solve Onogi here. The people around were heartbroken when they saw this scene, and the black soil rushed up desperately. Old man. Stop it, you bastard. You are not allowed to hurt Tsukage-sama. But it was too late. They had been tens of meters away from Oyemu recently, and it was too late to rescue them. Just when everyone thought that Onogi was bound to die, and many people closed their eyes and couldn't bear to watch, the spatial vortex suddenly trembled and disappeared. No, it looks like this spell has been lifted. Everyone on the scene was stunned for a moment, including Madara, who felt that a force had just imprisoned and blocked his chakra, forcibly releasing the ninjutsu. In his memory, no one had ever been able to do such a thing. Yemu escaped from death, and was even more puzzled. Why didn't Madara kill me? It doesn't seem like he was taking the initiative to remove it. But the people were stunned, but the rock monster was not stunned. He, who had not been twisted by Shinwei's neck, directly punched the distracted spot with a solid punch, knocking him hundreds of meters into the air, and fell into a rocky mountain. The dust was flying, and the ninjas of Iwagakushi village were all applauded, obviously not wanting to think too much about why Madara's ninjutsu would be lifted. Obito and Tu were also a little surprised, and they jumped to Madara's side. Obito said, "What's the matter with you, Madara?" Everyone could see that Madara had missed the opportunity to kill Tsukage just now. Madara was the most confused one on the field at the moment. He first got up, stretched out his hand and patted his left eye. After confirming that there was no problem, he stared hard at Tu Ying in the distance. Divine might. Useless. Amaterasu. Useless. Madara's eyes were dry from staring, and the ninja from Iwagakura village opposite didn't understand what Madara was doing. It's strange, the ability of the left eye suddenly can't be used. Is it broken? Or is it a means left by that kid Feng Yao? Madara's tone was a little unpleasant. The ninjutsu was interrupted during the battle, and he was beaten by the rock monster. It's a small matter. Lost such a good eye, but the other spots feel very sorry. Oyegi even took the opportunity to sneer. What's the matter, Madara, are you not as good as me, an old man with a waist? Madara didn't get angry, but patted the dust on her body and responded, HMPH. There are so many words, then I'll be a little more serious. All your attacks are useless to me, Uchiha Madara. Then Madara's hands quickly formed seals, and the trees that rose from the ground shook the rocks to pieces. Wooden, tree world's birth. The Yenian village, which was supposed to be a rocky and earthy mountain, suddenly appeared countless giant trees from the ground, turning the originally red rocky area into a dense forest. These wildly growing trees swept towards Yenian village. All the buildings along the way were destroyed. The trees lifted those houses high and fell, and rushed into the center of the village with the ruins. Oyemu's face froze. The scope of this technique is too large, and he can't stop it all by himself. Do you really have to watch Madara destroy his home? What a joke. This old man is Onogi, who is 2 days old. No matter who you are, you can't think of doing wild things here. Onamu roared. His face became crazy, and a transparent enchantment that was bigger than before appeared again in his hand. Dust escape boundary stripping technique. This is an upgraded version of the technique of removing the dust in the realm. It not only expands the range and power, but also has a continuous effect. Any object that approaches the technique of stripping the boundary will be turned into an atomic state. Onogi threw the enchantment forward, and most of the trees in the enchantment were in contact, and they were all blocked, turning into atoms and dissipating in the air. However, there were still many trees growing towards the central Iwanan and ordinary residents. Anamu secretly thought that something was wrong, and he couldn't use the dust escape again for a while. Just when the villagers and ninjas of Yinian village looked desperate, a young voice sounded from behind. Dust escape, the art of peeling the realm. A cone of dust appeared in the air and collided with the remaining giant trees. Boom! The earth was blasted out of deep pits, and the remaining trees were also resisted. A few tens of meters beside the deep pit, several Iwagakushi ninjas swallowed their saliva. Yes, I am saved, it's Captain Netherland. So strong. As expected of the genius of my Yinian village, he was able to bring Chen Dun to such a level. But isn't the captain of the underworld injured? He actually played with injuries for us. When everyone saw Feng Ling, they were all grateful to Dade, and their faces were rosy. Many people hurried over to support the crumbling Feng Ling. Feng Ling's face was bloodless at the moment, and he started to sweat on his head after just using a dust escape, but the goal was finally achieved. This blow gave the avatar a lot of prestige. Chapter 168-Yin-Yang Escape. Oyemu turned his head and smiled, applauding. Good job, Netherland, go down and rest first, and leave the bottom to me. Madara glanced at Feng Ling a little, then looked at the young man who blocked his little half-ninjutsu, and vaguely felt as if he had seen him somewhere. But I couldn't say it for a while. Did I think too much? I always feel as if I have seen this Yan ninja somewhere, and I can feel the breath of samsara from him. Madara was about to take a closer look when a tall Iwanan appeared in front of him. This big man was wearing red armor and a hat, and even his face was covered by a mask, so he couldn't see what his face looked like. But the dark red-tailed beast chakra on his body has revealed his identity. It is the five-tailed man Zhu Lihan of Yinian village. Han jumped into the sky above Ban, and shouted loudly, "Boiled escape, unparalleled monster power." This ninjutsu is a ninjutsu that raises the chakra to the boiling point in one breath, making the whole body strength rise in an instant. Naruto once borrowed the chakra of the five-tailed king to use this technique to melt the big ice that trapped him. Han's strength increased in an instant, and he wanted to kick Madara directly with one kick, but the result was indeed a light blue rib. Susanoo. Looking at Susa, who was kicked out of several cracks, Madara smiled and said, "Finally willing to show up, Hiroshima of the Five Tails, then I will accept you." Then Madara chakra exploded in an instant, Susanoo grew flesh meridians, and entered the fourth form, growing hands and feet. Dancing the sword of Susanoo in his hand, he slashed towards the Han in front of him. In the distance, Feng Yao has regained a new ninjutsu. The Naruto World ninjutsu has been extracted for the host. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Yin-Yang dungeon. All the ninjutsu appearing in the Yin-Dun and Yang-Dun in the Naruto world will be mastered by the host for half a year. Feng Yao was shocked. Yin-Yang escape belonged to a secret ninjutsu of the power of the six paths. The art of creating all things out of nothing and giving life. After Naruto gained the power of the six path immortals, he was able to fully exert the power of Yang escape. He once saved Kai's life with the Yin-Yang escape technique and created an eye for Kakashi. That is to say, you can do the same thing, or even surpass them, but you must first determine which ones can be used. Feng Yao humbly asked, "System, which of these yin and yang escape techniques can I use directly?" In Yangdun, for example, medical ninjutsu, and the magic of the thousand-handed clan, the host can use it directly. Feng Yao's face twitched, and he said in a weird tone, "Aren't you kidding me? I'm about to fight Madara. Do you want me to use medical ninjutsu to fight him? Do you think I can fight him? Tired him to death." The host doesn't need to panic. There are still shadowy illusions and various secret techniques that can be used. The system's tone was flat, and then a burst of information poured into Feng Yao's mind. The art of turning the heart, the illusion, the secret shadow art, the art of doubling, the jade of seeking the Tao, the spear of the sky marsh. These ninjutsus are either yin and yang, or secret ninjutsu derived from yin and yang. Other ninjutsu aside, what Feng Yao values most at the moment is this jade. Jiyu Dao jade contains the power of all things. People without the power of the six paths will disappear into nothingness. All ninjutsu is invalid for Chu Dao jade. The only weakness is that it cannot resolve immortal techniques. Madara can't help me, even kill him. Feng Yao's heart moved, he stretched out his right hand, and a black ball appeared in Feng Yao's hand. This Dao jade seems to be ordinary, but in fact it is so powerful that it can easily destroy a forest. Moreover, it is not only possible to obtain the Daoyu jade by becoming the Ju Tail's pillar power. To put it bluntly, the Taoist jade is to create a form based on the yin and yang, and add high-density chakra of all 7 attributes of the yin and yang and 5 elements to it. Blood net, constitution that combines all 7 chakra attributes, so she can rely on her own power to create it. Out of the expansion to seek the jade. The second is to rely on his own strength and directly use the chakra of the 7 attributes to make it. Feng Yao belongs to one type. With the help of the system, he can directly use the chakra of the 7 attributes to make the Taoist jade. The third is to use Tenseigen to create, and the fourth is to become the 10 Tails pillar force and gain control of the 6 paths of immortal art. Feng Yao transformed the Chu Daoyu into the form of a tin stick, a black stick, a shield, a floating platform, etc., which can be manipulated freely. The Chu Daoyu itself has all attributes, so it can also use its yang attribute to use medical ninjutsu. Very well, no one in the ninja world has mastered the 6 paths immortal techniques and become the 10-tailed man Zuli, so no one can directly resist my Taoist jade. I'm just afraid of immortal techniques, so I have to keep it a secret. Feng Yao is satisfied nodded. At this time, the system made a sound ignorant of the current affairs. Congratulations to the host for triggering the task and becoming the 10-tailed man Zuli. Time, within 1 year. Task reward, limited ninjutsu system full version. Slogan, you have almost reached the pinnacle of the ninja world, become a 6-path immortal, change everything. Becoming a 10-tailed man Zuli. The full version. Feng Yao was puzzled. Every time the system changed ninjutsu, he was assigned a new task, and he was used to it. Only this time, the task doesn't seem to be so difficult. Taking the 10 tails from Madara who has been resurrected may seem unrealistic to him in the past. But now it's not difficult at all, even when Feng Yao can only use Tongju ninjutsu, he is 60% sure. If something goes wrong, there must be a demon. To become a 10-tailed person, you only need to use the 6 10-tailed coffins to absorb the 10 tails. There is no difficulty, the 6 10-tailed coffins. Feng Yao muttered to himself. Suddenly his face froze, he gritted his teeth and said, "You're cheating on me, the 6 paths and 10 tails are auxiliary ninjutsu. I can only use yin and yang escape, how can I become the 10-tailed renjutsu unless you let me use auxiliary ninjutsu?" Ah! At this time, the system was unable to say the righteous words. No, this system must abide by the rules, and didn't the host think that the auxiliary ninjutsu was too unbearable? Please, the host, find a way. When did I say? When Feng Yao retorted, his voice was obviously a lot quieter, but he had to figure out a way by himself. Maybe there was a technique to absorb the 10 tails that could be derived from yin-yang escape. As for this reward, Feng Yao also asked several times, but the system did not fully inform him, only that he would upgrade his current system. Feng Yao can only silently pray that the upgrade is not too pitiful. Then Feng Yao created 10 Taoist jades around him, one of them turned into a black tin rod, and the other 9 were suspended behind his back. At this moment, even if he hadn't become a 10-tailed man, Feng Yao's strength was already the top 3 in the ninja world. Chapter 169-Subdue the 5 Tails. The face of Madara's sword of Susanoo, Han also showed the strength that the 5-tailed man Zuli should have. Violent steam erupted from his body, and he quickly avoided Madara's attack while covering his sight. The steam armor on the back has a thruster-like function, allowing him to move quickly for short periods of time. Madara wanted to subdue Wu Wei immediately, so he was not in the mood to spend any time with Han. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Do you use steam to fight? There is no elegance at all in this fighting method." An invisible shadow sprang from Madara's body and flew behind Han at a faster speed. Round Grave Border Prison. The shadow of the Tomb of the Wheel shot down Han again, and the steam armor behind him shattered. "Han!" Oyemu exclaimed, and hurriedly flew to save the other party. But the shadow of the Tomb of the Wheel sent Onogi out with another punch. Boom! Onogi's thin body fell into the ruins, and everyone's eyes shrank. How could this happen? How could Lord Han be hit? Medical troops, come and see the situation of Tsuchikage-sama. Let's go up together. Hold that guy down and don't let him hurt Han. Iwanan has always been proud of unity, even if the strength of the enemy is far superior to them. He still does not think about running away, only a death battle. Just when they were about to rush up, Obito came to the ninjas of Iwa hiding village in a flash. His right eye force created a space distortion, and then condensed the chakra into his mouth. Fire escape, bursting wind and dancing. Huge fire snakes attacked the ninjas of Iwa hiding village around, not only in a huge range, but also at a very fast speed. Tudun Tuliu City Wall. Rock Shinobi could only deal with Obito first, and a huge earth wall rose up from the ground, blocking the fire snake. Madara ordered the outsider golem to spit out a huge chain, wrapped around Han's body, and the dragon head at the front of the chain bit Han's shoulder. Slowly, a pure white beast with huge horns on its head was pulled out of Han's body. Although he resisted with all his might, he would be sucked into the body of the golem sooner or later. Chu stood in the distance and thought to himself, if Madara is absorbing a 5-tail at this time, then there is only one 9-tail missing, and then it will reproduce the 6th-path immortal just as Feng Yao-sama said. Strength, in that case, there is no chance at all. At this time, Do's information had not been synchronized with the others, and he was wondering if he should find an opportunity to sneak attack. Madara didn't notice Kazuo's thoughts. He had successfully extracted the 5 tails, and the 5th eye of the outsider golem was open to the fullest. The 6-tailed rhinoceros, the 7-tailed Shigeki, and the 8-tailed bull ghost have been captured by Akatsuki or Madara before. Now that only the 9 tails in Naruto's body are left, all the 9-tailed beasts are gathered, and Madara's plan is half completed. With the help of everyone, Daemu in the ruins climbed up with difficulty. Watching the scene where Han was pulled away from the tailed beast and died on the spot, he couldn't bear to close his eyes. Madara retracted the outsider golem, and then walked slowly towards Onogi. His purpose was not Onogi who was Tsuchikage, but Feng Ling behind Onogi, whom Madara had noticed since just now. I remembered that this guy and Feng Yao's little devil gave me a very similar feeling, but the moves were completely different. But I can be sure that his left eye is my reincarnation eye. It really took no effort. Madam thought. Feng Ling's eyes flashed, and he was keenly aware of this. His thoughts and memories were the same as those of Feng Yao, and he had already realized that Ban had found his clue. I can only be calm on the surface, and scream in my heart, the main body. If you don't come out, I will be killed by Ban, and my identity will be exposed by then. But there was still no response. The crowd rushed to stop Madara, but Madara didn't even bother to release the ninjutsu. With simple physical skills, Iwa ninja who rushed over was completely eliminated. Oyemu's eyes were not afraid at all. He scolded, "Don't rush up, it's just a tasteless sacrifice, his goal is me, you all get out of the way." The other Iwatoshi were not rushing over. Onogi took a deep breath, his chakra was running out, and he could only give it a try at the end. Just when he was about to start, Madara passed him directly and walked towards Feng Ling behind. Anamu's heart was full of anger. He was ready to die together with Madara. He had lived long enough, and he was very happy to be able to use this wreckage to finally do something for the village. Kaban's target turned out to be the younger generation of Yinian village in the future, and the people behind are the pillars of Yinian village in the future. This made Oyemu unacceptable. He rushed over with the dust in his hand and roared, "You can't hurt my disciple, Madara, Madara, disappear into this world with me." Bantu didn't look back, a hand stretched out, and the transparent original cover was in front of him. Sealing imprint. Onagi's dust escape was completely absorbed and did not cause any damage to Madara. Then, Onogi was kicked away by the invisible shadow of the Tomb of the Wheel and landed on a house in the distance. Madara walked to Feng Ling's side and said casually, "No one bothers us now, are you right?" Feng Yao. For a time, everyone was attracted by this sentence. Feng Yao, isn't that the leader of the Immortal Organization? Wasn't this bastard talking nonsense? Do suddenly widened his eyes, and he carefully observed the person he didn't care about just now. The appearance can be changed, although the appearance is not that of Lord Fengyao, but the aura is very familiar. Could it be that Lord Fengyao is not dead? In order not to cause us to be chased and killed by Madara, so we hid in Yenian village. He thought to himself. At this time, there was a serious information asymmetry between two and the others, but he had already decided that if Madara shot Fengling, he would definitely stop it. Chulu pretended to check the situation and approached Madara's side. Fengling was stunned for a moment with everyone, and then his face was full of surprise and confusion, as if he couldn't understand what Madame was saying. He didn't believe Madara was convinced that he was Feng Yao, and what he said just now was just blowing himself up. Seeing that Fengling didn't look like a fake, Banyan smiled and said, "It seems that I misread it, but there is one thing I believe I will not misread it." Said, the palm directly grasped Fengling's left eye. Do didn't hesitate and shot directly. His hands quickly formed a seal, and he whispered in his mouth, "Wood Dun Thorn's killing technique." After successfully transplanting the cells between the columns, Do is one of the people who mastered the secret art of wooden escape, thinking that wooden escape is more suitable for attacking than medical ninjutsu. The rattan-like wood-bound Shang Madara, but he was flashed by the opponent. The ninja Iwagakura saw that the other party suddenly became infighting, and hurriedly dragged Fengling back. "It seems that I don't know people well. Since you choose to betray me, then let's do a good job of betrayal." Madara threatened coldly in midair. Just as he was about to start the seal, a black spear shot from a distance, and Banana turned his head suddenly with chills all over his body, only to see Chu Daoyu expanding in his pupils. Chapter 170 Sky Marsh Spear. Madara felt the terrifying high-density chakra in the jade for the first time, and a drop of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. However, he has experienced many battles, and he is always sensitive to the attacks behind him, so he turned on Susanoo for the first time and wanted to resist. The light blue chakra condensed into bones, tendons, and armor, wrapping the 3 layers inside and outside the 3 layers. "This should be no problem," Madara said with some anxiety. But things backfired, and Susanoo, who had always been invincible, was like a piece of paper, and was instantly destroyed. Chu Daoyu directly smashed Susa's armor, revealing a surprised Madara. Feng Yao had no plans to keep his hands at all, and Chu Daoyu directly slammed Madara's head. Sealing imprint. Madara stretched out his right hand to absorb Chu Daoyu, which was the only way he could think of right now. Snapped. Madara's arm is like shattered withered wood, which can be easily destroyed. Chu Daoyu has the power of all things, which can make all ninjutsu ineffective. Although the ability to seal the art is against the sky, it is still ninjutsu in essence, and it does not deviate from this category. But it's not completely useless. The arm's blocking also gave Madara a chance to dodge away, at the expense of a right arm. Boom. After destroying Madara's right arm, Chu Daoyu's strength did not decrease, and he smashed into the house in the distance, and the building suddenly turned into nothingness. Madara jumped aside and looked cautiously at the house in the distance. Obito next to him widened his eyes, his face full of disbelief. The people around didn't even react. In a short while, Do rebelled, Feng Yao attacked, and Banana's arm was destroyed. Everything happened too fast. This feeling can't be recovered. Is it the Chu Daoyu? Banana looked thoughtfully at the right arm that disappeared into nothingness. Obito was sweating coldly from behind, looking around and roaring, "Who is it? Don't hide your head and hide your tail, get out of here for me." Feng Yao took a good time and walked out from behind the rock mountain, and Chu Daoyu also flew back to his side. Although Madara knew that Feng Yao was still alive, he was still a little surprised when they met, and he snorted coldly, "It really is you, Feng Yao. I didn't kill you last time, and let you use Izanagi to resurrect. Do you think you still have a chance this time?" Obito sneered. Of course he didn't have a good face towards Feng Yao. Feng Yao smiled slightly at Ban, and then one of the Taoist jade turned into a floating platform, dragging Feng Yao towards Yinian village and flew over. Generally, the attack range of Chu Daoyu is only about 70 meters, but Feng Yao has a physique bonus, which can easily exceed 100 meters. Don't be angry, anger hurts the body, Obito. If Ban died, shouldn't you be happy? That way you don't have to worry about him killing the donkey, right? Feng Yao said in a leisurely tone. Hearing this, Obito's tone stagnated, and he fell silent. Do ran to Feng Yao's side excitedly and said excitedly, "Lord Feng Yao, I knew you wouldn't die so easily. I'll tell the news to Lord Orochimaru and the others." "They already know, you are the last one," Feng Yao said helplessly. Quote. Compared with the excited and Obito's silence, the people in Yenian village were desperate. When they saw Chu Daoyu, they thought that someone was helping them. Only when I heard the name did I know that it was Feng Yao, who had a more vicious reputation in recent years. The 5 major countries had been chasing each other for so long, even if the Yanran were optimistic, they did not think that Feng Yao was here to help them. Madara's expression remained unchanged, and she said to Feng Yao, "Feng Yao, what are you trying to do here this time? Revenge? Kill me with the begging jade?" Feng Yao shrugged. "It's almost, you can't let you continue to mess around in the 5 major countries, otherwise it will hinder my plan, and take my eyes back by the way." Speaking of the end, Feng Yao suddenly stopped, and he found Madara's chakra focused on his left eye at the moment. "Hee, you found out, it's a waste to use your eyes to use Izanagi, it doesn't work at all. Did you do the temporary failure of the eyes before? It seems that there are still a few pupils missing now that they have recovered." Madara stroked her left eye with a pity in her tone. The moment Madara was about to be attacked by the Chu Daoyu, she moved her left eye again, but found that the ability of the left eye was already available, but it lacked a lot of changes, and the pupil skills such as Shinwei and Amaterasu could not be used. Fortunately, there are still illusions such as Tsukiyomi and Izanagi that can be used. Madara used Izanagi first, but the sense of crisis still hadn't disappeared. Izanagi couldn't bear the attack of Gudoyu and then revived. If Madara didn't stretch out his right arm and use the seal technique to block it, the tomb of the grave has already been erected. Hearing Madara's words, Keize's expression did not change at all. After using Izanagi, the eye on Madara's body would soon lose its light forever. Feng Yao's voice was low. "Don't feel sorry, those are my eyes, and I will not let them lose their light." Then, the Dao jade around Feng Yao changed in shape, and gradually formed a black long sword that was very similar to the DNA chain. Amamar Spear. Of the 6th-path immortal Otsutsuki Yui, the ancestor of the ninja, the Spear of Amanuma. People's powerful thoughts will attach to the sword, creating such a sword of the heart. Manipulating the Amana Spear requires firm belief. If it is not or shaken, the Amana Spear will automatically shatter. As soon as the Xianju spear appeared, Madara felt that the cold hairs stood up, and he had to stop Feng Yao. Although he only had his left hand, it did not affect the blotches of the spots, and the trees on the ground began to tremble with the marks of the blotches. Wood Done Wood Dragon Technique. This is the ninjutsu that once made Feng Yao shriveled. This time Madara summoned 3 huge wooden dragons with long hooked noses and thorns all over their bodies at once, and entangled them towards Feng Yao. Feng Yao glanced at it, and the other Taoist jades turned into disc-shaped darts and cut them towards the wooden dragon. Before the wooden dragon approached, the black light flashed, and the wooden dragon's head fell to the ground. The incision was very smooth, just like cutting tofu, and the entire body of the wooden dragon was also cut into dozens of segments in the next moment. Feng Yao waved the swamp spear and stabbed Madara and Obito. There were many barbs on the huge swamp spear sword. Those without the power of the six paths would turn into nothingness if they touched a little bit. Madara's mouth bulged high, transforming chakra into a fire escape and condensing it at the throat. Fire escape Longyan art of singing. Several dragon-headed flames flew towards Feng Yao, and Feng Yao transformed one of them into a square shield. There are also different horizontal and vertical stripes on it, which were placed in front of Feng Yao. Shield. This is the name Feng Yao himself gave to this change. The change of Chu Daoyu depends entirely on personal application. Feng Yao is still good at this point. The flame hit the shield and turned into nothingness again, without causing any turbulence. This spot is extremely certain that Feng Yao is using the Chu Dao Jade. Chapter 171-Madara escaped. Don't touch those black balls, otherwise any medical ninjutsu will be useless. Madara said to Obito next to him. After all, he had done a lot of research on the things left by Immortal Six Paths, but he didn't know why Feng Yao died once in a short period of time and gained such a powerful power when they met, which was really unreasonable. Feng Yao Shin swamp spear tossed, and took advantage of the situation to divide the remainder into two parts, but no blood appeared. Madara's body gradually turned into dead wood, a wooden clone. Did I lose the bag just now when I used the Gudaoyu to defend? Feng Yao didn't stop, and swung towards Obito. Obito penetrated the past, and Feng Yao's eyes flashed with surprise. It stands to reason that Chu Daoyu can crack all ninjutsu. But after thinking about it carefully, I was relieved, because Chu Daoyu didn't hit Obito, and Obito's body was in the Shinwei space at the moment, and it didn't hit, so how could it be ineffective? So, where did Madara go? Feng Yao glanced around. Madara must not have left, and must be here. Suddenly, in front of Feng Ling, the ground suddenly cracked. Madara sprang out from below, reached out to grab Feng Ling's left eye, and dug out the Samsara eye. Now he wants to deal with Feng Yao who owns the Taoist Jade. Only by getting his other eye will he have a chance to fight against Feng Yao. Feng Ling was already very weak, and he couldn't avoid it at this moment. He could only watch as his left eye was taken away, and blood and tears flowed down the eye frame. The people next to him could only hurried over to support Feng Ling. Feng Ling, your eyes, Madara Uchiha, this bastard. Where is the medical class? Come and help stop the bleeding. The people of Yenian village didn't know why Madara wanted to snatch Feng Ling's left eye, and they didn't have time to think about it carefully, and their survival was still a problem. Madara removed Feng Yao's left eye and reinstalled his own Samsara eye. Sure enough, it is the Eye of Reincarnation, which has finally come back. According to Obito, this Eye of Reincarnation should be in Feng Yao, so this boy from Yenian village must have something to do with Feng Yao. Bangsun said. Then he threw Feng Yao's eye away at will. This eye would soon become blind, and it was useless to keep it. Feng Yao quickly flew over with a begging jade, like a big enemy, but Feng Yao just wrapped the lost eye and brought it back to his side. Madara could not be immune to Izanagi's side effects, so he could only reluctantly give up Feng Yao's left eye, but when it came to Feng Yao, this side effect was not worth mentioning. Feng Yao laughed loudly. He, thank you for returning your eyes to me. I'm afraid that when I solve you in a while, I will destroy my eyes that I have cultivated for a long time because of the reason of begging Daoyu. Feng Yao put his left eye back, and now Feng Yao's eyes are gathered together. He waved his left hand lightly, and the 6 Dao Jade next to him flew to banana. This time, there was no change in shape, but he simply attacked with the Dao Jade. Madara's 2 Samsara eyes flashed slightly, and a few shadows instantly appeared around the body, the tomb of the wheel. This belongs to the ability of the modeled Samsara eye, and it is also one of the few techniques that can resist the Daoyu Jade. Naruto once used a stick-shaped Daoyu Jade to hit Mobin, but he was stopped in the air by the wheel tomb. It's just that at this moment, Feng Yao can no longer see the shadow, and even the reincarnation eye of the clone has been taken away. Therefore, there was no way to manipulate Chu Daoyu to avoid the shadow's obstruction. 5 Chu Daoyu were instantly fixed in the air, and one rushed towards Madara. After Madara gathered his eyes, there were a total of 5 shadows of the Tomb of the Wheel, only one less than Feng Yao, and one was sealed in the original book, so there were only 4 left. Madara was not in a hurry with the remaining one. Susanoo put it on his body, and his long sword was dancing. Susanoo who dance of the 2 swords. The purpose of swinging the knife is not to block the Chudao jade, but to make it deviate from the direction, but at the moment when the 2 big knives touch the Chudao jade, the pitch-black Gudao jade suddenly emitted a dazzling light, and the chakra inside suddenly turned violently. Madara screamed inwardly, and then the loud explosion made everyone temporarily blind and deaf in front of their eyes and ears. Boom! Boom! A huge mushroom cloud rose from Yenian village, and the periphery of Yenian village was directly blown up. Not even a single ruin could be seen inside, and it all turned into nothingness. Madara and Obito could not be seen from the inside. Feng Yao pushed the suspension platform to the center of the deep pit that was blasted out. Tisk! Madara actually escaped with Obito. What a pity, the incarnation of divine power is such a good ability. Feng Yao glanced at a place where the space was not yet stable, and didn't say anything. Flying up from the pit, everyone was so frightened that their hearts skipped a beat, their mouths were dry, and many people were sweating. Now I don't know what Feng Yao will do with them. In the distance, Daiemu struggled to get up. He had just been stunned by Madara's hammer. When he woke up, he found Madara was completely suppressed by Feng Yao. Seeing Madara defeated, I felt fortunate and at the same time my heart sank. After all, they were one of the 5 villages that participated in the pursuit of Feng Yao. No matter how I thought about it, I didn't think Feng Yao would treat the people of Yenian village kindly. Feng Yao opened his mouth and joked, Daiemu, do you think I should destroy your Yenian village or keep your Yenian village? I will give you a choice to surrender to me, otherwise you will all die. Speaking of this, Feng Yao made no secret of his hideous murderous intent. For a while, everyone around was like falling into an ice cellar, and they felt fear in their hearts. This person is really terrifying. Someone swallowed. When he said this, he clearly looked down on our Yenian village, and would rather fight to the death than bow down. Some people were disdainful. Reckless man. It's easy to say. We ninjas died in the battle to defend the village. Of course, we died properly, but we must really protect the village and the villagers. Going up like this is undoubtedly a death sentence. Someone scolded. Oyemu's face was ugly, and the other party was so rude. If the other party's strength was too terrifying, he would have beaten the other party into atoms earlier. Anamu gritted his teeth and said, if you think about letting my Yenian village surrender to you, it is absolutely impossible. Hearing these words, Feng Yao pretended to be furious, and the light of the words burst out from the few jades in his hands. That's a fart. When everyone saw it, they panicked, and the explosion of so many Taoist jades was enough to level Yenian village. Anamu's mouth was even more bitter, regretting that he should not have said so absolutely, and angered the other party. Wait a minute, Mr. Feng Yao, cough. A weak voice came from the ground. Feng Ling held the boulder next to him with one hand, covered his eyes with the other, raised his head and called to Feng Yao. Chu Daoyu's light began to weaken. Feng Yao looked down and said displeased, Ly, what's the matter, boy, do you have anything else to say? Ahem, Mr. Feng Yao, your strength is very strong, but destroying my Yenian village will not benefit you in the slightest. Instead, it will only have disadvantages. Can you listen to me? Feng Ling was neither humble nor arrogant. With windy eyes, Feng Yao snorted coldly and said with cold eyes, what are you? Why should I listen to you? Can you represent your Yenian village? Chapter 172 _ Take control of Hidden Rock Village. Feng Ling's tone was stagnant, and the scene fell into a strange silence again. After all, although Fengling is the nominal heir to Toying, Onogi has never publicly stated it. Feng Yao snorted coldly. It seems that you are playing tricks on me, brat. Since that's the case, you should take the lead for your companions in Yenian village. After finishing speaking, a Chu Daoyu beside him moved and rushed towards Feng Ling. The people around didn't dare to look at it anymore, and even Madara couldn't beg for the jade next, and if it hit him, it was naturally dead and no place to hide. Of course, Oyemu couldn't bear to have his disciple die here, and looking at his disciple's determined look, there might be a way to convince Feng Yao. Standing directly on the spot, he roared, "Of course he can represent Yenian village. He is my disciple and also the 4th generation of Soil Shadows of Yenian village in the future. What he said represents the will of my Yenian village." After hearing this, everyone in Yenian village was a little surprised. After all, there are still many people who don't know about this matter, and now it can be said that everyone knows it. Chu Daoyu also stopped on top of Feng Ling's head, and Feng Yao's face softened a little. That's exactly what he wanted to hear and what he's doing in this play. Anamu's eyes flickered slightly, looking at the disciple in the distance, praying in his heart, "Netherland, everything can only be left to you. I hope you can really convince this lunatic that the life and death of my Yenian village are in your hands." Up. The eyes of others also converged on Feng Ling, and they were all looking forward to every word from Feng Ling. "I hope that the other party can persuade the enemy and save Iwa Hidden Village." Feng Ling looked directly at Feng Yao and said indifferently, "Mr. Feng Yao, if you destroy my Yenian village today, then the 5 major countries will definitely abandon the Xiao organization and attack the Xian in an all-round way. The countries are united on the surface, but in reality they have their own plans, but Yenian village can be wiped out." Feng Yao frowned slightly and seemed to be thinking about something. Feng Ling hit the railway while it was hot. "It's not convenient to talk here. Why don't you go to the Toying Hall with me and Lord Toying to talk?" Onogi nodded slightly. He had seen that his disciple was quite knowledgeable and could accurately analyze the situation in the ninja world. Now it seems that diplomacy is not bad, and some words are not for ordinary people to hear. Perhaps, it's time for me to give way to these young people earlier. Oyemu muttered to himself. Then, with the help of Feng Ling, he slowly walked towards the Toying Hall. Feng Ling turned back and took a deep look at his own body, and then said, "I'll wait for you inside, Mr. Feng Yao tilde." The two walked towards the somewhat broken Earth Shadow Hall together. Feng Yao turned his head and said, "Do, you are waiting for me here, don't take any action, understand?" Bowing down, he said, "Understood, Lord Feng Yao." Feng Yao walked into the Earth Shadow Hall, which was already covered with dust at the moment, and there were countless cracks, as if it was crumbling. Anamu sat on the main seat, stretched out his hand and said, "Please sit down first. What my apprentice just said, Feng Yao. Mr. won't refute it." At this time, Oyemu's tone was much better than outside. Sometimes, for the sake of the country, the village would make many dark choices, such as hiring Xiao to organize battles in the war, trying to steal secrets from other countries and so on. These things are often not something that can be said to all the villagers, just like the content of negotiations with Feng Yao. Oyemu has made some big sacrifices. As long as Yenian village can be kept, it is acceptable to pay some price. Seeing the scene in front of him, Feng Yao was secretly happy, but on the surface he said very indifferently, "So what, do you think I will be afraid of the 5 great kingdoms?" Feng Ling nodded and continued, "Of course you don't have to be afraid, but I know that there are many members in the Xian organization. Your strength does not mean that they are the same, and our Yenian village is willing to pay a certain amount. Help you at the price, in exchange for peace between our 2 families." Anamu nodded silently, which was what he wanted to say. Feng Yao sat comfortably on the chair, put his hands on the table and said, "Then what can you help me? Don't forget that we were still enemies just a moment ago, or the wanted target of your Yenian village." Feng Ling and Daemu looked at each other, and then Feng Ling approached Daemu and said something, and Daemu's expression changed a few times. Finally nodded. Our Yenian village withdrew from the peace agreement of the 5 major countries, and cancelled the arrest of Mr. Feng Yao. In addition, this time our Yenian village was attacked. It will be explained to the public that it was done by the Xiao organization. From your appearance, it is obvious that they have let's be enemies, and we won't be enemies with you in the future, and of course you can't treat us as enemies. Feng Ling said with a slight smile. Feng Yao pretended to be contemplative for a moment, then nodded and said, if this is the case, then I can promise you Yenian Village's conditions and not be your enemy of Yenian Village. A boulder hanging from the bottom of Oyemyu's heart finally fell, and he was really worried that his disciple would not be able to convince the other party. Feng Yao didn't stay for long. After discussing a few details, he went out and left Yenian Village with his pocket. Only Onogi and Fengeling were left in the hall. Onogi let out a long sigh of relief, and his body went limp. Feng Ling hurriedly supported her and asked worriedly, Lord Toying, how are you? Cough. Onogi saw that Feng Ling was also very weak and cared so much about himself, and he was rarely moved in his heart. He patted Feng Ling on the shoulder and sighed, Netherland, I will leave Yenian Village to you to be the master in the future. This time I was also seriously injured, and I am afraid that I will not be able to succeed Toying. Feng Ling's eyes flashed, and he took Oyemyu's hand and said, how can I do this? I'm still too young. Are you saying that you're not old enough to be strong? Just rest for a few days and you'll be fine. Yemu waved his hand. Don't say it anymore, the master believes in you. The other side. Obito and Banana escaped from the Kamui space. Although the two of them were transferred away, they were transferred during the explosion, so they were still seriously injured. But it wasn't a direct hit by Chu Daoyu, so it can still be recovered. Shibi will be impressive for 3 days. The strength of this Feng Yao is beyond my expectations. I have mastered this power in just a few days. I am not his opponent now, but after having 10 tails, that's another story. Madara shook her empty right arm. He looked at the 6-tailed, 7-tailed, and 8-tailed people Yuri who were lying not far away. As long as he can become the 10-tailed person's pillar power, then he has the complete power of the 6 paths, and naturally he is not afraid of the wind. Obito agreed to stare at Renzuli, and continued, we are only short of 9 tails. His Renzuli is called Naruto. Now he is in Konoha village. After recovering from his injuries, let's go and arrest him. Author's digression. Today's update is a bit late. My sister's child is full moon, and I went to the dinner. It's too noisy and I haven't had a chance to code words. I took the opportunity to run back in the afternoon and quickly update a waved dog head. Chapter 173 _ Another way to accomplish the task. After leaving Yenian Village, of course, the first thing to do is to look for Tayuya and others. With the little slug in the pocket, Feng Yao also grasped the positions of the two of them, and the Taoist jade turned into 2 floating platforms. Asai and others flew over to their positions. Now that there is no time and space ninjutsu to move, they can only rely on the flight of Gudaoyu to travel. Fortunately, the speed is much faster than the general travel and the flight of birds and beasts. In less than an hour, Feng Yao saw a black eagle flying high in the sky from a distance, and Feng Yao accelerated to the bottom of the black eagle. A red figure jumped down from Mo Ying. Feng Yao was stunned for a moment, and quickly reached out to catch it. The soft body slammed into Feng Yao's arms, and of course it was Tayuya who had been rushing here non-stop. Lord Feng Yao, I'm afraid. I will never see you again. They all say you are dead, but I know. I know that you won't die easily, Lord Feng Yao. Duo Yuya whispered, her eyes flushed, and she was about to cry again when she was sad. Feng Yao's eyes were soft, and he stretched out his arms and hugged Duo Yu also gently. Am I still alive? You have to believe me. Before I complete my plan, I will never die, and I will not lose it. Get you down. In Feng Yao's warm embrace, her breathing also began to be rapid, and her liver was pounding cautiously, which was more tense than she had ever fought to the death before. But her heart was full of happiness. Clatter. A soft sound interrupted the two of them. Sakai jumped off Mo Ying, very subtly destroying the reunion of the two. With Sakai's character maybe intentional, Tayuya's face froze, and she gently broke free from Feng Yao's embrace, with 2 red clouds floating on her face. Lord Feng Yao, I'm sorry, I was just too excited. Tayuya stared at Feng Yao affectionately. Feng Yao smiled slightly and stroked her head. It doesn't matter, I'm also a person. I won't lose a piece of meat if I hug it, and if it's to Yuya, I'll be very happy. Hearing such a direct answer, Taiyu also blushed and lowered his head. That, Mr. Feng Yao, you ordered us to go to Yenian village. Has the problem been solved now? Saoyi took a step, came to Feng Yao, and asked with a deep bow. To Yuya, Sakai can restrain his emotions very well. After all, he is a person organized from the root. Feng Yao's eyes flashed a ray of light, and he said vaguely, well, it has been solved, but you still need to go there. This time Yenian village has suffered a lot, and my avatar should inherit the position of Soil Shadow soon. I hope you guys are there to help him and get him out of some trouble. I understand. Sai bowed his head slightly, then turned around and said to Yuya, let's hurry as soon as possible, we have to get to Yenian village before dark. Duo Yuya's originally mild face raised a few blue veins, and she said depressedly, what are you thinking? Don't you see that I still want to stay with Lord Feng Yao for a while? I'm going to go and give it to me. Quote. But obviously, Sai still doesn't have the ability to observe words and feelings, so he forced Taiyu to prepare to leave. Lord Feng Yao, then I'll go to Yenian village first. If there is anything, you can use the little slug to inform us that we will go first. Taiyu also looked at Feng Yao reluctantly, and then turned back step by step. Walked towards Mo Ying. Feng Yao smiled bitterly and said, don't worry, you all have to be careful there. If you have anything to ask my incarnation Feng Ling, which is the Netherland of Yenian village, he is me to a certain extent. To Yuya and Sakai nodded again and again. Don't worry, we all listen to Lord Fengling. After speaking, Mo Ying waved his wings and left with the two of them. Lord Feng Yao, let's rush back to the floating city as soon as possible, what do you think? Do suggested in a low voice. Because many things are now waiting for Feng Yao to preside over the overall situation, the actions of the floating city, the loss of Union Village, and so on. But Feng Yao seemed to be stunned suddenly at this time, frowning tightly and thinking about something. In a way he is me. Feng Yao asked solemnly in his heart. System, Avatar and I share the same soul, and he is also me. That's right. Of course, there is no such thing as a master-slave relationship. The two are you. The system answered Feng Yao without hesitation. Then, Feng Yao showed a scheming smile. Then if I make my incarnation into a 10-tailed person, does that mean that I am also a 10-tailed person? You just said that I have no master-slave relationship with the incarnation, it's all me. Myself. The system suddenly got stuck, and this was the first time the system got stuck in the face of Feng Yao. Ha ha ha. Feng Yao laughed happily. Even if it was rejected by the system, it was worth it. But what Feng Yao didn't expect was that the system really agreed with Feng Yao's proposal. This time the host is lucky, and happens to have the ability to incarnate, which is another way to complete the task, not a violation. This system it can be regarded as the two tails Zuri that you became. Feng Yao almost didn't jump up to celebrate. In this way, the task is much easier. Once Madara takes another shot, he captures the outsider golem. This is too simple. Now the 9-tailed beast is the only one with 9 tails that has not fallen into Madara's hands. Just stay there and wait for the rabbit. The second is from Madara or Obito's brain. Searched for the seal of the 6-way 10-tail coffin, taught it to the avatar, and let him absorb the 10 tails and become the 10-tailed pillar force. Madara and Obito were injured, although there are intercolumnar cells, but after all, it was injured by the explosion of Gudayu, and it must not be easy to recover, and there are Itachi and others on Tsunade's side to help, and they are not in Naruto. It will be easily caught. Feng Yao pondered for a moment, and finally decided to go back to the floating city first. Floating city. Orochimaru and the others sat on their seats, waiting anxiously. Gaara comforted. Don't worry, I didn't tell you all about it. Lord Feng Yao is fine, he just went to the Shibone forest now. Everyone tried to relax as much as possible. Nothing to do. Gaara told them about the battle since Shangrin and the others left, and said Feng Yao brought him back to life. Hiss. Everyone gasped. This kind of strength was terrifying, but they also understood how terrible Madara was. Such an opponent, it is no wonder that even Feng Yao, who has always been omnipotent in the eyes of everyone, had to rely on Izanagi to resurrect. Hehe, Yaojun has really experienced a tragic battle. It seems that I've been too obsessed with research recently. It's necessary to follow the action. Orochimaru said timidly. It wasn't that Orochimaru was unwilling to go out before, and Orochimaru would mention it every time, but Feng Yao felt that Orochimaru's experiments and scientific achievements could better enhance the strength of the immortal, so Feng Yao refused every time. Chapter 174 Return to the Floating City. Feng Yao flew all the way, and followed the route through the country of fire to the floating city. The translucent dome in front is the barrier set up by Orochimaru, and of course it doesn't work for Feng Yao. Finally back, without the time and space ninjutsu, the journey will be much slower indeed. Feng Yao said with emotion. Do also spit out a mouthful of turbid air and walked in with Feng Yao. Orochimaru sensed someone entering the barrier immediately. He smiled at the crowd and said, Yaojun has returned, let's go see him together. Everyone filed out and came to the outside of the hall. Feng Yao was walking towards here with his hands behind his back, and the tin stick in his hand had turned into a Taoist jade again. A full 10 floated behind Feng Yao, each of which was a walking nuclear bomb. Boss Feng Yao, I just said how did you die? Did you kill that spot already? Xianju stepped forward and bumped into Feng Yao's arm, but her joy was beyond words. Xianju, aren't you the first to come out and say you want to take revenge? How did you forget it so quickly? Yaojun, don't believe him. Call me next time you deal with Madara. Orochimaru first. He dismantled the stage of Xianju, and then said respectfully. Lord Feng Yao, thank you for saving Gaara. I'm sorry. I couldn't help you. Looking at the scene in front of him, Feng Yao laughed loudly. Okay, I know your thoughts. I won't die easily. Don't worry. As for Madara, he has already been injured by me, and now it is estimated that hideaway. Everyone looked at him again. Madara's strength was obvious from Gaara's description, and it was obvious that Feng Yao had turned defeat into victory in this short period of time. Yaojun, what is this floating behind you? What is it? Orochimaru pointed to Chu Daoyu curiously, with a hint of greed in his eyes. It is greed for knowledge, and Orochimaru always wants to study the unknown things thoroughly. Feng Yao touched his nose and said helplessly, this is called Chu Daoyu, which is based on yin-yang escape and merged with all the properties of the yin-yang power of the 5 elements. Ordinary people will turn into nothingness when they encounter it. I am afraid I can't study it for you. Relying on it I defeated Madara. This can't be handed over to Orochimaru indiscriminately. At that time, the research mistake will blow up the floating city and I don't know what happened. That's right, I testify that Lord Feng Yao did defeat Madara. I was taken away by Madara in Union Village, pretending to work for him, and he took him to Union Village, where Lord Feng Yao and Madara fought again. Lord Yao is a complete victory. Do flattered his glasses while holding up his glasses. Go to Yinian Village. Feng Yao continued. This matter is a long story, and I just have something to explain to you. Let me go into the council hall to discuss it. Under the leadership of Feng Yao, Orochimaru and the others returned to the hall and sat down one by one along the round table. Feng Yao's understated first sentence shocked everyone. Iwa Hidden Village is already under my control, and now we can intervene in 3 of the 5 major ninja countries. After being surprised for a while, Orochimaru said with a smile, it seems that Lingjun has already inherited the position of Toying. Congratulations to Yaojun, your plan has taken a big step forward. So, only Konoha Village and Sandian Village are left. Gaara hesitated a little, and said about his own village. Gaara's feelings for Sandian Village are very complicated. It is not only the place where he was born, but also the place that hurts his heart the most. After staying in the floating city for nearly a year, Gaara's heart no longer hurts like before, and it also allows him to stop looking at Sandian Village with hatred. At least in his opinion, the only thing that was wrong was waiting for my father, and he didn't hold any grudges against his sister Tamari and brother Konkuro. Thinking of this, Gaara opened his mouth and seemed to be ready to say something. Feng Yao saw Gaara's hesitation and said first, "Don't worry, Gaara, I won't do anything to your family, they will be safe and sound. Tell me, do you want to be Feng-ying?" Clam. Gaara froze on the seat, and everyone's eyes focused on Gaara. Unexpectedly, Gaara shook his head. I am not interested in the position of Feng-ying, but if it is Feng Yao-sama that you need, then I will do my best. Feng Yao nodded. Letting me love Luo as Feng-ying was naturally the best idea. Although everyone's identity is now betrayal, but as long as they control the other 4 villages, black can be said to be white, and Cheyenne village is now at the bottom of the power, and has no right to speak. Well, I am going to hand over the management of Cheyenne village to you later. At present, we still need to take Konoha village into the bag as soon as possible. If I guess correctly, Madara will attack Konoha soon. Feng Yao crossed his hands, said solemnly. Even after defeating Madara in Yenian village, Feng Yao still did not dare to underestimate this opponent. In this case, should we take the opportunity to give the 6th generation Hokage? Orochimaru made a grim expression and made a neck-stuck action. Feng Yao shook his head, pondered for a moment and said, "After all the villages are under our control, I am going to remove our identity of rebellion first. If we kill Hokage at this time, it will affect us instead. There are better plans for Kakashi to step down himself." Quote. Feng Yao smiled mysteriously and did not continue. Hearing Feng Yao said so, of course, Orochimaru can only obey orders. Do stood up and said with a solemn expression, "One more thing, Lord Feng Yao, regarding Union Village, Hideyoshi's strength was greatly lost. The 2-tailed teak man and the tailed beast were pulled away, and the 8-tailed man Zuli was taken away." Quote. The scene was instantly quiet, and Union Village suffered extremely heavy losses, and even Hideyoshi himself was seriously injured. Feng Yao knew that Madara attacked Union Village, and he planned to go to Union Village in person to solve the damage caused by Madara. Feng Yao stood up slowly and said calmly, "I've thought about this. I'll take Tianshengya to Union Village and resurrect the Erwei Renzuli. When I come back, I'll choose a few people. Come with me to Konoha." Yes. Outside the floating city, Orochimaru and others stood in the open space to say goodbye. A begging jade behind Feng Yao flew out next time and changed into a floating platform. Feng Yao stood on it and hung a natural tooth on his waist. He can't use reincarnation to resurrect others now, he can only rely on props, and there is no difference. Although Madara attacked Union Village, the main loss was the loss of 2-tailed beasts. There were not many casualties among other ninjas, and not all Union ninjas were in the village. Whoosh! The sharp sound of breaking the air sounded, and Feng Yao's figure disappeared in place, passed through the barrier, and flew towards the direction of Union Village. Chapter 175 _ by Union Village. Union Village. Half an hour after Madara took the pocket away, the support from Union Village arrived belatedly. Looking at the injured Raikage and some of their dead compatriots in front of them, they could only hold back their anger and start to rescue the surviving ninjas and repair the damaged buildings. After Hideyoshi barely recovered a little, he didn't even have time to grieve over the Teak people, so he immediately began to organize rescue affairs and matters in Union Village. But there was one thing that exceeded the expectations of all Union Village ninjas. That is the ninja of the hidden village of Kiri. When Kahu was reporting information to everyone, of course, he also told Terumi Mei, who is Mizukage, that if it was before, Terumi Mei would definitely not choose to help other villages and countries. But it's different now. Both Union Village and Wuyin Village are now Feng Yao's subordinate forces, that is, a family. So, after Terumi Mei found out, she rushed over with the medical team and some elite ninjas as soon as possible. After half a day of treatment, most of the ninjas have been treated. Hideyoshi is currently leading Shi in the Raikage Hall to entertain the ninjas of Karayan Village. He sighed and said, "Thank you very much this time, Mizuying-sama. Without your medical team this time, our losses would be much greater than now." Terumi May blinked and said with a smile, "Your Excellency Hokage is very polite. Now that our 5 countries have signed a peace treaty, I should help our allies." She stood next to him, bowed deeply, and said gratefully, "No, Master Shuiying, I really want to thank you. Our Union Village has almost nothing to do with you, but you don't hesitate to cross the sea to help us. For this friendship, all the ninjas in Union Village will be grateful to Dade." Quote. Terumi May's eyes flickered a few times, and she walked over to help Nozomi up. "There's no need for this. Our Wuyin village was also persecuted by Xiao's organization, and Zuli, the person from our village, was also taken away. Now he must be dead, so I think we must work together at this time." Hideyoshi nodded and continued, You are also a medical ninja. Go and help treat the wounded first. I have something to talk to Mizukage-sama alone." With Nozomi around all the time, there are many things that are inconvenient to say directly, so Hideyoshi found a legitimate reason to let Nozomi out, so that he could talk business with Terumi May. When there were only 2 people left in the Raikage Hall, Hideyoshi sighed heavily, and he turned his head and said, "Thank you. If it wasn't for you, things might have been worse than I thought." The hidden village was attacked, which would lead to distrust among some of the higher-ups. Quote. This time, the thanks are in the name of colleagues in the Xian organization. Terumi May shook her head slightly, saying that she didn't care. Also, what you just said, is it true that Lord Fengyao can resurrect others? You didn't lie to me. Hideyoshi swallowed and asked what he cared about most. Terumi May nodded under Hideyoshi's expectant eyes. Don't worry, there has been news from the organization that Fengyao-sama has left for a long time, especially for the 2 tails. It's a pity that the 8 tails were taken away. At that time, Madara directly used the outsider golem to absorb the power of the 2 tails and left the person, and since the 8 tails hadn't arrived in the order, Madara took it away. After hearing Terumi May's words, Hideyoshi's expression darkened again, and he blamed himself. Alas, it's my incompetence and I have failed Master Fengyao's entrustment. Just as Terumi May was about to comfort her, she suddenly heard a sound outside the door, just as she was about to take a look. The door outside suddenly opened, and a gentleman from Union Village walked in. The 2 immediately turned into poker faces, and Hideyoshi asked in a low voice, "What's the matter with you? Why are you standing at the door and eavesdropping?" He is not sure if this person has heard the conversation just now. If it is out of safety, then it is necessary to silence the other party. Hideyoshi hadn't figured out what to do, when suddenly, Nainan's body fell softly and fell to the ground. His shadow gradually elongated and widened, and Fengyao's body drilled out of the shadow. Toad shadow manipulation technique. This kind of ninjutsu is not one of the 5 elements of escape, but more similar to the shadow imitation of the Nara family. It injects chakra into the shadow and thins the body to control the spirit and body of the opponent. It is a type of yin escape. Without time and space ninjutsu, Fengyao can only rely on this ability to sneak in. "Master Fengyao," Hideyoshi exclaimed as he stood up. Terumi May rolled her eyes, and said incredulously, "Do you want everyone to hear your loud voice?" Hideyoshi closed the door with a single step, and quickly pulled up a chair for Fengyao to sit down. "Well, is your injury better, Hideyoshi?" Fengyao looked at the bandages still wrapped around Hideyoshi's body and asked with concern. Hideyoshi's nose was sore. He knelt on the ground and choked. "My injury is fine, Lord Fengyao, it's just that I lived up to your expectations and didn't take good care of Union Village. Captured and now life or death is unknown." Fengyao sighed and patted Hideyoshi on the shoulder. "I heard about it, it's not your fault. After all, I couldn't stop Madara. Don't worry about the teak man, I have a way to revive her." Hideyoshi seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw, and his eyes were red. "Thank you, Master Fengyao." No words can describe Hideyoshi's gratitude at this time. Fengyao put his hand in the place where Hideyoshi was injured, and entered the power of Yangdun into the opponent's body. This medical effect is much stronger than ordinary medical ninjutsu. Yangdun originally represented the ultimate vitality and physical energy, and Hideyoshi's injuries recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the chair next to her, Terumi Mei dragged her shattering chin and stared at Feng Yao with a doting face. Since that incident, Feng Yao has never had time to meet with Terumi Mei, so looking at each other is a little embarrassing. Feng Yao coughed twice, trying to avoid Terumi Mei's burning eyes and said, "Zhao, Terumi Mei, I will leave the matter of resurrecting the teak man to you. It is not convenient for me to come forward directly. Take this knife and you will know how to do it." Quote. After she took out the natural teeth pin to her waist, Terumi Mei was stunned for a moment. She thought Feng Yao would continue to use the resurrection ninjutsu she used in Korean village that day. The result was a knife. "Okay Tilda, I'll listen to you. Is there anything else I need to do?" Terumi Mei pulled a long note and moved closer to Feng Yao. A fragrant wind wafted along with it. Feng Yao had a headache, and could only smile bitterly. "Let's deal with this matter first. Hideyoshi is still waiting." Terumi Mei joked with Feng Yao again, and left the rakeage hall with Hideyoshi, and Feng Yao sneaked out again without knowing it in their shadows. Author's digression. Sorry. In chapter 174, I was too quick, and I wrote Yahweh is killed in battle. In fact, Yahweh was arrested at that time. Ahem, my fault. It has been revised, and I bring you the reading experience. Sorry for the inconvenience. Doghead, save your life. Chapter 176 _ all parties are moving. A few days later, Konoha village. Other countries being attacked by the Shao organization has also spread here one after another, and the world of ninja has once again undergone earth-shaking changes in the past few days. Yenian village announced the withdrawal of the wanted order issued by the Xian organization and replaced it with a wanted order for Shao, and the third generation of Hokage Onogi of Yenian village abdicated, and the fourth Hokage Nethersoil took office. Union village and Wuyin village were not idle either, and they also made several major events. First of all, the rescue of Union by Wuyin village surprised many people. After that, the two villages set up a number of cooperation projects. Wuyin village provides abundant aquatic products, and Union village provides various large-scale batteries and technologies. Trade between the two countries has increased. As for Cheyenne village, there is no major situation, but it is said that Kage Luasha is getting more and more restless. Kakashi put down a piece of information, took a deep breath and asked, "Lu Ju, what do you think of this matter? Is it possible that Union village and Wuyin village will join forces to attack Konoha in the future?" Being in Hokage's position, it is necessary to maintain a certain vigilance on everything. Although Union village has suffered 2 heavy losses, the foundation is still there. With a Wuyin village, the strength can already attack Konoha. Lu Ju picked up the information and glanced at it. Then he put on a serious poker face and said, "Lord Naruto, although I think we need to maintain a certain degree of vigilance, there is no need to worry too much. Allies have always been a paper treaty, and the combination of Wuyin and Union must be the same. For some benefit, it is very unlikely that Wuyin village will send troops from the land of water to help Union village at a high cost." Quote. Kakashi listened to the analysis and nodded slowly. The Nara family has always been the brain of Konoha and can come up with the best solution every time. During this period of time, send more Anbu to follow Naruto and protect him secretly. The Shao organization has already captured the tailed beasts in Yenian village and Union village. I think the next one must be here, Uchiha Madara. It just sounds chilling. Kakashi sighed. It is not only the fear of the powerful strength of the enemy, but also the worry of his own disciple. Lu Ju smiled and comforted. It's a good thing to be cautious, but you can't let it overwhelm you. We have collected a lot of information about Madara's battle, and all the villages are very cooperative, especially the newly appointed 4th member of Yenian village. Datokage, he's even sending a team to help us deal with Madara. Well, I also know this, maybe the new Toying society respects the strategy of peace after all. We can make good friends with Yenian village and reach an alliance agreement with them. Now the peace agreement signed between the 5 major countries is almost useless. A mortal organization as if it disappeared, the eyes of the shinobi world are all on Akatsuki, which makes me a little uneasy. Kakashi rubbed his chin with his right hand, thinking about the reason. This made Lu Ju very concerned. He didn't understand where all the subordinates of the immortal organization had gone. Ow! On the street, a ninja with yellow hair and an orange jacket with a fox-like beard on his face shrugged his nose. What's the matter? Who is talking about me behind my back? Naruto squinted and looked around. Naruto is much more mature than before, and his long-term cultivation in Miaomu Mountain has also greatly improved his strength. An indifferent young man wearing a light-colored stand collar next to him slapped a knife on the top of his head and said, "Big idiot, don't keep thinking about strange things, I'm already hungry, invite me to dinner." Naruto covered his head in pain, then rolled up his sleeves and replied, "Why did I invite you? Shouldn't you have a lot of money as a Hokage guard?" "Who told you such a thing? Please, I don't even have time to pick up the task." Sasuke shook his head helplessly, showing his impoverished appearance. Naruto suddenly realized, so that's the way it is. After I become Hokage, I'll give you a raise. I really dare to say it, you are 10,000 years of forbearance. Naruto's body froze, as if he had been stabbed in a sore spot. Most of his time was spent on cultivation, and he didn't have time to take the Chunin assessment, so he was still a jerk. Sasuke has been staying in Konoha village, and he is the guard of Hokage. He has long been a jonin, and this has always made Naruto a little worried. "Stop talking, let's go eat ramen together," asked Sakura to join, hehe. Naruto could only use a not-so-smart method to divert the topic. "Didn't I say, want to eat a group? You are only thinking of yourself. Aren't you either?" We walked over to the ramen shop while chatting twice. In the far corner, the space began to twist and spin, and then two people walked out of it. A person wears a white mask with 3 hooked jade reincarnation eyes, wears a dark blue robe, holds a death scythe in his hand, and both left and right eyes are samsara eyes. The other person is wearing a black tight-fitting combat uniform with red layered armor on the outside, holding a flame fan, and a pair of eyes are reincarnation eyes. Standing there, it will give people an inexplicable pressure. These two uninvited guests who entered Konoha are naturally Uchiha Madara and Uchiha Obito. They were both Konoha's people, so they would not be perceived as enemies by Konoha's enchantment. Madara only had one arm left at this time, and just like the reason that Gudauyu is reincarnated by hitting the dirt, Madara's right arm cannot be restored by ordinary transplant methods. According to Madara's estimation, the right arm can only be restored by the power of the 6 paths after becoming the 10-tailed Manchurian. But the lack of an arm doesn't affect Madara's combat effectiveness. One-handed knots are difficult for ordinary people, and not worth mentioning for Madara at all. That's Kyuubi's Renzuli. He looks like a kid, but there are some people around him who are protecting him. He's very weak. Madara glanced in Naruto's direction, slightly disdainful. These protectors are naturally Anbu. Even in the village, they are doing their due diligence and never leave Naruto an inch. Obito also sensed other people's aura, so he frowned and said, "Get the 9 tails as soon as possible and go straight. We have been targeted by the 5 major countries recently. Don't underestimate that guy called Naruto. According to the information, he and Feng Yao a childhood friend, think about how difficult Feng Yao is to deal with." Quote. Speaking of this name, Madara rarely paid attention to it, and even felt a dull pain in his right arm. He said in a low voice, "If that's the case, then let me try this brat's strength." After speaking, he jumped up and jumped directly in front of Naruto. Boom! The huge impact of the landing crushed the entire street. Almost instantly, a dozen members of Anbu appeared on the street at the same time, some protecting Naruto and Sasuke, while the others surrounded Madara. Chapter 177_Konoha's trump card. Naruto, step back. We were sent by Hokage-sama to protect you. The person opposite is Madara. You go first and inform Hokage-sama. Anbu turned his head and said to Naruto. He is Madara. Sasuke murmured in a low voice. 3 Go Jade Riding Wheel eyes appeared, staring at the man in red stacked armor not far away. As a Hokage guard, The reason why he did not stay by Kakashi's side, but followed Naruto, was to protect Naruto and prevent him from being captured by Madara. Naruto looked at Madara not far away. He knew that this day would come sooner or later, but he was different from before. Naruto raised his index finger directly, pointed at Madara and said loudly, "Hey. You are the guy who wants to catch me. I'm here, if you have the ability, come try it." Call _ A gust of cold wind blew, and the scene was eerily quiet for a few seconds. Sasuke grabbed his forehead with one hand and said with a headache, "What is this idiot talking about?" Interesting. Banyan raised his head and laughed, but the hearts of the people around him sank. Sasuke even urged, "Madara is not something we can deal with. You go first and report to Kakashi-sensei, we will stop him." Banping calmed down and said in a low voice, "If I don't allow it, you can't do without it. Let's see if I have the ability to catch you." Saying that, light blue chakra rose up from his body, forming a torso bone, and quickly grew meridians in flesh and blood, and slashed towards Naruto with the sword of Susanoo. "This is Susanoo, it seems to be much higher than my form." Sasuke took a deep look at Susan. He now has a kaleidoscope with both eyes open. Of course, he can also use Susan, but it is still in use. In the first skeletal form. Just as Naruto was about to fight, the Anbu member next to him stepped forward and slammed his arm into the ground after forming the seal. Earth escape, multiple earth flow walls. A number of thick stone walls rose from the ground, protecting Naruto firmly. Madara cut through the wall of earth like tofu, and the members of Anbu hurriedly pulled Naruto back. Madara's sword was unabated, destroying more than a dozen surrounding houses. "Ah, what happened? Someone is attacking, hurry up and notify the guards. Anbu has arrived, the enemy should be resolved soon." Everyone ran out of the house in a panic, pointing at the fighting place. "Everyone, please leave as soon as possible. The enemy is very dangerous," an Anbu member shouted anxiously. The next moment, his body was pierced by the sword of Susanoo, his body was picked up, blood scattered from the air, and the warm blood fell on Naruto's face, causing his body to tremble. "Are you still distracted from fighting with me? You didn't take me seriously at all, it gave me no fun at all." Madara threw the Anbu member aside as if throwing garbage. Naruto's pupils shrank, jumped over to catch the Anbu member, and after checking it, his eyes became sharp. This Anbu has already been sacrificed, and Madara killed Konoha's companion in front of his eyes, which naturally made Naruto angry. Naruto suppressed the anger in his heart and gritted his teeth. "You bastard, I will never forgive you for doing such a thing to my companion." Out a turbid breath and said plainly, "It seems that you are a lip-smacking guy. I thought you could be similar to that Feng Yao, but now it seems that I think too much. Such a monster is really impossible." A second one appears. Madara's tone showed deep fear and a strong will to fight, and he also regarded Feng Yao as his opponent in his heart. As soon as the name came out, Naruto seemed to be stunned for a moment, and then hurriedly asked, "Have you seen Feng Yao? Where is he? What happened to him?" Madara shook her head and stomped towards Naruto. "You talk too much, let's try to save your life first." Madara's mouth bulged high, spitting out 4 or 5 dragon head-shaped flames, attacking the opposite Naruto. The art of Longyan singing. Everyone did not dare to take it hard, and they all dispersed at the first time. Boom, boom, boom. The flames exploded in the streets and houses, and Konoha village suddenly burst into flames, and many ninjas had already rushed here. But Madara and Obito were not completely unprepared. Baiju began to appear in many places. These were all created with outsider golems, and there were about a few thousand people. They started making trouble everywhere, causing trouble. "Kill, for Madam Sama, get rid of these Konoha ninjas. We have a lot of people, let's go together and kill this Chunin. Let's say hello together." Baiju's strength is not strong, but it is better than the number. After all, no matter how many ninjas there are in Konoha, it is impossible to cover all places. Shadow gauntlets. The 6 Baiju were wrapped in black shadows, and the elongated shadow stretched out to their necks, and half of the Baiju were instantly strangled. The rest are firmly under control. Lu Ju sighed. He was just talking with Kakashi when there was an explosion outside, and then a few Baiju emerged from the ground to attack, but of course they gave it for nothing. Lu Ju frowned and said calmly, "It seems that Madara must be here, much faster than expected. Hokage-sama, I propose to start that plan." "Are you really sure? But this forbidden technique is still too cruel. Who would be willing to be a sacrifice?" Kakashi said hesitantly. Lu Ju smiled and patted the remaining Baiju. It goes without saying that Kakashi's eyes lit up. "Okay, we'll go now." Kakashi took off his white Hokage robe, put on light clothes suitable for battle, and followed Shikuku quickly to a secret room. It was almost empty, with only 3 human figures wrapped in white sealing cloth. This is the first and second Hokage that was sealed in the previous battle against Konoha, as well as Uchiha Mirror. In order to prevent the 2 Hokage adults from being used this time, Konoha sealed their souls and left them in Konoha village. After the return of Konoha's ninjutsu, the senior management of Konoha did not agree to seal these ninjutsu. They agreed that the current Konoha village urgently needs strength to arm themselves. Request to unblock all forbidden techniques and improve Konoha's strength. Under pressure from many parties and the difficult situation in Konoha at that time, Kakashi agreed to some of the requests. Choose a forbidden technique and study it, and the one chosen by the high level is the technique of reincarnation from the dirty soil. Some senior officials of Konoha believe that the strength of Konoha can be strengthened in a short time by reincarnating the dead through dirty soil. Some people think that this technique requires a live sacrifice, and there are too many cruel reasons to oppose this plan, and neither side can convince the other. This plan has been shelved for the time being. But now Madara has opened the door, and with Baiju as a sacrifice, Kakashi has no psychological burden. The seal in Lu Ju's hand undid part of the seal, and the white cloth spread out, revealing the first and second Hokage inside. The first generation slowly opened their eyes. They were previously implanted by Orochimaru, the talisman kunai that could obliterate consciousness, but it was later taken out, so now they have a certain self-awareness. Chapter 178-Naruto. Where is this place? Hashimama looked around with a blank expression, as if he hadn't reacted. Tobirama looked at the stunned eldest brother, sighed deeply, and said solemnly, "Anita, eldest brother, we should be still in Konoha, but it seems that we have regained consciousness, and we should have escaped from that collar. Orochimaru's bondage. Boy, did you do it?" Tobirama's eyes look like Kakashi's. His perception is far beyond ordinary people, and he can detect a trace. Kakashi bowed his head humbly. "I just helped the 2 Hokage-sama take out the restraint spell that obliterates consciousness during the seal period. Unlocking the seal this time requires the help of the 2 Hokage-sama." Hashimama tilted his head and looked at Kakashi seriously, pouting his lips in doubt. "You, who are you?" Kakashi touched the Konoha forehead guard on his head, but he didn't know how to answer for a while. "This original Hokage is really different. Ahem, this is Konoha's current Hokage, the 6th generation Hokage Hatake Kakashi." Shikaku explained. Hakuma made a long note, showing great surprise. Then he said excitedly, "I remember when we were sealed before, when Sarutobi was there. It was only 3 generations back then. It seems that a long time has passed. How is the village now?" When he asked this question, Kakashi was a little embarrassed and didn't know what to say, but now the situation is urgent and can't be delayed any longer. Kakashi bit his head and said, "Actually, it's only been about a year since you were reincarnated in the dirt. Now the situation in the village is very bad. Madara has been resurrected, and he is in Konoha." "What?" Zujian's mouth grew exaggeratedly, and it was probably more than enough to stuff an egg, and his expression was very dignified. Lu Ju suddenly changed his mind when he saw it. He originally thought that the first Hokage was a natural fool, but now he is still very reliable, knowing the seriousness of things after Madara's resurrection. Hashimama clenched his fist and said with pain on his face, "Does it mean that Konoha died to Hokage within a year? Both of them have gone directly to the 6th generation, which is too incredible." Kakashi and the two were directly swept away by the magical brain circuit of the column. Ani to Big Brother. Please pay attention to the key points for me, you better stop talking. Tobarama shouted directly. Hashirama was yelled at by Tobarama, his head suddenly lowered, and he behaved very negatively, but Tobarama didn't buy it and snorted and turned his head away. Kakashi looked at the bizarre brothers and said with a wry smile, "Mara is now collecting tailed beasts everywhere, taking away the precious lives of countless ninjas wherever he goes, and now there are only 9 tails left. If he succeeds, the world does not know what kind of disaster will come, and the only one who can stand against him is you, who is called the god of ninjas." Quote. Tobarama is still relatively calm and rational. After listening, he closed his eyes, switched chakra to perception mode, and opened it again after a short time. Solemnly, it is indeed Madara's chakra. He is now fighting against Konoha's ninjas in the village, and his strength is stronger than before. Hashirama adjusted his emotions, looking at Madara's direction. His eyes were complicated, and there were remorse, emotion, and nostalgia in his eyes. Finally sighed and said, "Madara wasn't like this before. He used to be a very gentle person. He has changed so much that he actually collected tailed beasts. Just based on my current strength, I'm afraid it's not Madara's opponent." Speaking of Madara, Tobarama was even more angry. "Hey, big brother, you are just too soft-hearted. I have already said that Madara can't be trusted. You should have killed him the first time, and we will give it to future generations. All the trouble." Hasuma shook his head. He always recognized Madara as his best friend in his heart, but in the end, the two had too many differences on the road to peace, which eventually led to a break. This also stems from Ban's self-respecting character, the deep-rooted personality of being strong and unyielding in his heart. This kind of psychology, coupled with the induction of Heiju, is exactly what he embarked on this road leading the world to its demise. Even if Hashima and Tobarama tried to stop Madara, there was nothing they could do. The reincarnation of the dirt on their bodies was very rough, and Madara had obtained a pair of samsara eyes. Luju continued, "That's why we want to reuse the reincarnation of the dirty earth to channel again all of you Hokage-sama. According to our long-term research, we are already confident that the strength of the reincarnation will be infinitely close to your previous strength, as for the current reincarnation of the dirty earth." Quote. "Leave it to me. After all, this is a ninjutsu created by me. If you can manipulate your body, it's easy to remove it." Tobarama interrupted directly. "Okay, then I'll leave everything to the two Hokage-sama." Kakashi's side immediately began to prepare. Tobarama immediately acted. He turned his head towards Hasuma and said, "Anagi, elder brother, you follow me to seal the seal." Hasuma hesitated for a while, but finally obeyed Tobarama. Z. Ugly, Shen, Yin, Chen, High Solution. With the seal of the two, a pure white light appeared on the two of them. The soul emerged from the body of the reincarnation of the dirt, and the original body disintegrated immediately, revealing the inner voice. The souls of the two had not left, and Kakashi and others immediately acted. They drew the curse mark of the reincarnation of the dirt on the ground, and then placed the 3 white absolutes in the designated positions and covered them with dust. Luju took out a scroll from the side, which was sealed with the DNA of the 4th generation. They wanted to try to see if the 4th generation could be resurrected. With such a plan, of course, the people of Konoha immediately collected some of the bodies of Hokage from the past, ready for emergencies. Kakashi took a deep breath, and then threw a series of afterimages with both hands. Yin, Si, Shu, Chen finished. Kakashi folded his hands together. Reincarnation of the dirt. The dust on the ground covered Baiju, and the shrill screams echoed in the secret room, but soon disappeared. The 1st and 2nd generations were successfully condensed, but the body of the 4th generation that should have been condensed collapsed. Kakashi sighed. "It doesn't seem to work. The teacher's soul is sealed." Luju on the side said, then channel the other one. After all, it is good to have one more combat power. Kakashi was silent for a while, and finally nodded. On the battlefield of Konoha village, all the ninjas still in the village have started to take action to suppress Baiju, who appeared in various places. The art of Nirvana abode. Next to the Konoha hospital, phantom feathers descended, and all Baiju fell asleep. After Sakura performed the illusion, she directly picked up the kunai tied with the detonating talisman and threw it at it, and more than a dozen Shirai were killed on the spot. Now Sakura has worshipped Yuhika as her teacher. At the beginning, she was praised by Kakashi for her talent for illusion, and she made rapid progress under the guidance of Yuhika. Now that she's a Chunin, she looked at the place where the battle was the loudest in the village. But don't worry, Sasuke, Naruto. Chapter 179-Kurama. After Madara pushed the crowd back, he directly waved the sword of Susanoo, and the blue chakra sword energy cut a huge crack, separating the other Anbu and Naruto. Naruto was blown away by the chakra's airwaves. Madara saw the opportunity, and Susanoo grew two dark blue arms behind him again, condensing the chakra Guyu. 8-foot Changu Jade. Madara snorted softly, and threw a huge series of Guyu at Naruto in her hand. Anbu members saw Madara's intentions, and were shocked and angry, but they were separated at this moment and could not help Naruto in the first time. Sasuke's 2-3-Go Jade began to transform into a kaleidoscope, the chakra on his body condensed into a skeleton, and a skeleton hand stretched out to protect Naruto's body. But someone is faster than Sasuke's Susa. Fire Escape Houyan Spiral Pill. A tall, white-haired ninja sprang out of nowhere, with a crimson spiral pill in his hand that was rising into flames. Press directly on the Guyu that flew into the air. Boom! The huge air wave generated by the explosion sent Naruto flying, and he couldn't help exclaiming, "The lecherous fairy." "Don't worry, I'm fine." The figure of Jiraiya flew out of the smoke, and Naruto was relieved. Madara stopped, looked at the new opponent, and after seeing the two toads on the opponent's body, he suddenly said, "It turned out to be the toads of Miaomu Mountain, the immortal mode, except for Hashirama, I rarely see it." Zerai also looked at Ban with a solemn expression, and of course the two immortals next to him did not dare to be careless. "Little Jiraiya, it looks like you have another hard battle to fight. This guy may be even more difficult to deal with than the Fungyao kid you saw at the time." Madara raised a little interest when he heard Immortal Fukasaku's words. He said, "It seems that you have a lot of entanglements with that guy Fungyao. Before I catch the 9 tails, it's okay for me to use you for fun." Madara formed a seal with one hand, squatted down halfway, and opened the fourth form. Swords of Susanoo grew out of their feet and danced, and launched indiscriminate attacks around them. Each attack would slash several huge blue chakra swords towards the surroundings. The surrounding houses were chopped apart, the ninjas approaching, the sound of the broken houses, the villagers, calls for help, and the sounds of ninjutsu that kept colliding in the air mixed together. Naruto took advantage of the precious time Jiraiya bought to retreat to the back, knees on the ground, and concentrated on saving up the fairy chakra. He knew that only in this way would he have a chance to fight against Madara. Sasuke pulled out his ninja sword and guarded Naruto's side, his eyes already staring at the size of the battlefield with a kaleidoscope. "Little devil, you are not that guy's opponent, just wait to die." A resentful voice came from Naruto's heart. This is the voice from the 9 tails. At this time, the Kurama is still full of hatred for human beings, and has not yet reached a mutual understanding with Naruto. Naruto tried to ignore it, and Kurama said more and more vigorously, "Madara is the most powerful human being I have ever seen, and the hatred in his heart even surpasses me, and you want to defeat Madara just because you are a stinky bastard. What a laugh. Dead, you can't do anything, just like the Fungyao you want to get back, you failed." In Naruto's consciousness space, it was full of gloom, and the light yellow water waves on the ground slowly spread. Naruto was frowning, and in front of him was the Kurama, which was several times bigger than his body. It was lying on the ground, opening its mouth, staring at Naruto with scarlet pupils, and constantly affecting him. Outside, Sasuke watched Naruto frown, and when he realized that something was wrong, he put one hand on Naruto's body. The words of the Nine Tails gradually affected Naruto, and the speed of his immortal chakra condensation was slow. In the inner world, when Kurama was still going to continue talking, a ninja sword flew over from the air, and Kurama directly bounced it with a flick of his tail. After seeing the person coming, Kurama said gloomily, "Here is another guy who is not afraid of death, Sasuke Uchiha. This naturally ominous chakra is really annoying." Sasuke ignored the fierce-looking Nine Tails, but lifted up Naruto who was squatting on the ground and chuckled, "Hey, didn't you say you want to become Hokage? How can you lose to this guy? There are still people outside. Yuban is waiting for you and me to defeat it." Naruto's body trembled, and he opened his eyes, only firmness in his eyes. He looked up at Sasuke. Sasuke stretched out his fist. Naruto smiled, and touched Sasuke. Then Naruto turned to Kurama and said, "He is not an ominous person, he is my companion, Sasuke Uchiha. I will defeat Madara and bring Kazuya back, so you can take care of me." Kyuubi's pupils shrank, and then slowly disappeared into the darkness. The immortal chakra has been condensed, and Naruto's eye shadow began to appear orange. At the same time, Obito's figure floated up from the ground behind Naruto, and he had been waiting for an opportunity. Obito stretched out his hand and grabbed Naruto, ready to use the Kamui vortex to suck him into the space. But just before the palm of his hand was about to reach, Naruto opened his eyes, and his perception in a mortal state gave him the first insight into his dangerous situation. Naruto twisted his body, avoiding Obito's palm, and at the same time gathered natural energy in his palm to increase his strength. Frog knock. Obito couldn't get a single blow, and of course it was impossible to stand here and be beaten. His right eye flashed slightly. Virtualization. Obito put the body that was about to be hit into the Kamui space. Naruto failed in one move, and Obito also took advantage of the situation to retreat. "Do you still want to leave? Be honest and stay." Sasuke naturally refused to let go of Obito who had attacked, and bloodshot left his left eye, leaving blood behind. Amaterasu. At the focus of Sasuke's eyes, black flames devoured the left half of Obito's body, and Obito staggered back. It's not that Obito didn't want to hide, but even if he turned on the blur, he didn't know where Sasuke would look at him, and there was no trace of Amaterasu's attack. And Obito can't put the whole body into the divine power space, only part of it, otherwise, every time you leave, you can directly blur the whole body. Did it succeed? Naruto asked in confusion. He had seen Sasuke perform Amaterasu, and this ninjutsu would never stop unless he burned the opponent. But Obito was not an ordinary person either. His right eye activated divine power, absorbed the black flames from his body, and pulled them down together with the skin on the surface, so that they would not spread, and the black flames slowly disappeared. Sasuke's heart sank. It seems that ordinary Amaterasu doesn't work for him, and he has to think of other ways. Naruto's hands formed a seal, condensing two shadow clones, one of which immediately squatted on the ground and condensed the immortal chakra, and the other was helping Naruto roll balls. Shantha Super Jade Spiral Pill. Chapter 180-Itachi's Aid. Naruto dragged the huge spiral pill and smashed it towards Obito's body, but obviously this move would not be successful, and the spiral pill passed through Obito's body again. It exploded on the ground, but instead, Naruto flew out, and a large pit appeared on the ground. Sasuke shouted, "Don't worry, Naruto, he seems to be unable to be attacked in a certain state, but not always in this state, waiting for an opportunity." After a short fight, Sasuke also analyzed a little bit of Obito's ability, but he has not yet thought of a way to crack it. Obito snorted coldly, "The Nine Tails must be mine, no matter how much you struggle, it won't change." "Then I'll tell you, no matter what, I can't give you the Nine Tails, unless you kill me first." Naruto pointed his thumb to himself, showing a sunny smile. "Oh, you, who have been discriminated against since you were a child, actually want to protect this Kurama who has harmed your life. Obito shook his head, not trusting Naruto's words at all. Naruto put down his palm and said with complicated eyes, "Yeah, I also felt it was unfair at first. Why should I be isolated and treated as a monster by others, not recognized by others? It is indeed because of the 9 tails that I eat. It's been a lot of trouble." Having said this, Naruto smiled bitterly, and then his tone became firm. "However, my companions have been helping me along the way. Iruka-sensei, Kakashi-sensei, lecherous immortals, Sasuke, Fungyao and Kurama, they have all helped me by my side. I definitely don't let you hurt my comrades." Naruto's words shook the sky, and the 9 tails in the consciousness space suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were full of surprise. It raised its head and murmured with complicated eyes, "Does it actually take me as a companion? This stinky boy." Obito was also stunned. Naruto's mouth was well deserved. But soon, Obito strengthened his faith again. "What nonsense. Treat the tailed beast as a companion. I have to take away the 9 tails in front of your eyes today." Obito opened the vortex of divine power with his right eye. Countless huge chains of black rods flew out of it, attacking Naruto like raindrops. Sasuke turned on Susan and stretched out his bone arm, grabbed Naruto in his hand, and pulled it into his Susanoo. The chain flew at a very high speed and stabbed over, and several chakra ribs were shaken by the impact to open several cracks, but still failed to break through Susa's defense. "This move is very powerful, Sasuke, so he can't do anything about it." Naruto was obviously very envious of Susa's defensive power. Obito's body sank into the ground at one time and decided to attack from the ground. Naruto's pupils shrank, chakra perception was maximized, and he looked around vigilantly. Then Obito appeared from behind Sasuke, and immediately turned on the power of God, including Sasuke in his attack range. At the moment when the power was absorbed, Sasuke also lost his control over Susanoo. "What do you want to do to Sasuke?" Naruto let out a low growl. He turned around and raised his fists, hitting Obito. "Frog hands." But Obito's eyes flashed with cruelty. Even if he resisted Naruto, he would have to deal with Sasuke first. A solid punch hit Obito's mask, but Obito didn't intend to stop his ninjutsu. Sasuke and others have already absorbed half of their bodies, and they will be sucked into the Kamui space in a few seconds, and then life and death will be controlled by Obito. Obito roared in his heart. "You can't stop me from absorbing it, I won." Quack. Dozens of crows suddenly appeared out of nowhere and pecked at Obito's eyes. Facing this kind of harassment, Obito could only close his right eye to protect his own. The Kamui stopped, and Sasuke was thrown out. "What's going on?" Naruto looked at the crow in front of him, confused. It was almost absorbed. Could this crow be? Sasuke thought of a possibility and opened his mouth in surprise. Obito took out his black stick and scattered all the flying crows. His heart was full of anger. He sneered, "Itachi, you are a traitor of this organization. You dare to appear in front of me." On a tree not far away, crows gathered into a human shape. Itachi was wearing an ordinary ninja suit, a gray one-piece armor, extending from the corner of his eyes near his nose to the deep lines under his eyes, and wearing a familiar necklace on his chest. Itachi looked down at Sasuke from a height and said calmly, "You're still too careless," and it was almost solved. "That's not up to you, why save me?" Sasuke responded lightly. Naruto cast a surprised look. He already knew what happened to Sasuke, but he didn't expect that Sasuke could be so calm when facing his brother whom he had always hated. Obito's eyes flashed a ray of light, and suddenly the conversation turned to Sasuke. "Your brother, the reason for saving you is because of the kaleidoscope on your body. You have found it. With the use of eyes, you will gradually become blind, but it is not impossible to solve it. As long as you transplant the eyes of your loved ones, you can get an eternal kaleidoscope. Itachi killed the Uchiha family to promote your growth." "Eternal kaleidoscope," Sasuke murmured. Then he asked Itachi in a heavy tone, Are you really willing to kill your clan for such a boring thing and leave me behind? Itachi, I want to hear your answer in person. Obito decided that Itachi would not deny it. After all, he knew that Itachi had a short time, and wanted to leave his eyes in the honor of killing himself to Sasuke, and let Sasuke revive the Uchiha family. Would you believe me if I said otherwise? Itachi gave Sasuke a deep look. The unexpected answer of course I will, surprised Itachi, and even Obito. Damn, how could this Sasuke become like this, pretending to be a good person? The enemy is right in front of you, hurry up and kill Itachi and me, bastard. Obito cursed in his heart. Itachi showed a gentle smile that Sasuke hadn't seen for a long time, and he said dotingly, You have grown up, Sasuke, I should have trusted you from the beginning. Sasuke was stunned for a moment, and then mist rose in his eyes. He just got really scared that Itachi would say that it was all true. If so, he would still choose to shoot at Itachi, but Itachi simply denied it. Grinning his teeth in a rustic manner, he said again, Sasuke, in fact, your real enemy is not Itachi, and someone else caused Uchiha's demise. Sasuke frowned, and he said impatiently, How much do you know? Tell it all in one breath. Obito's expression remained unchanged, and he was about to tell Sasuke that when the top officials of Konoha ordered the massacre of the Uchiha family, a white figure appeared behind Obito. The visitor was dressed in a white golden python suit, with neat black hair and blue pupils that were particularly attractive. In particular, 10 black balls were suspended behind him. When other people's brothers are reunited, you shouldn't be talking about boring things all the time. It's a disappointment. The flat voice made Obito break into a cold sweat, and of course he could tell that the voice was Feng Yao.